and your sports network.
Yeah, I've been closer to Jesus before, so can you help me out? Oh, can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? But can you help me out? Am I on my own? Am I on my own? Or can you help me out? Can you help me out? I've been scared to look in my soul. I've been afraid I would follow the road. Yeah, afraid of the things I've been told.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into a Thursday edition of Running Point. I'm Anthony Hartwig, alongside Ty Bartel. We have a great show planned today as we continue our football preview in the YSN family of schools. Today, we venture into the MVAC gray tier to talk about that conference. It's going to be exciting. We also have Jennifer Martin, head coach of the Columbiana Volleyball, joining us at 12:30. So it's going to be a fun show. Ty, how are we doing today?
Doing real good, Anthony. Doing real good. Excited to look at some more football teams around the area and get a couple more interviews with some volleyball coaches before the season starts.
Absolutely. We got a fun day, and let's start with the MVAC football previews on Running Point, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. Let's start with the Crestview Rebels, the team coming back that I think is going to have the biggest target because they won it last year, of course.
Yeah, Crestview did win it all last year. There were some players that they lost, though, and a whole slew of players that aren't going to be returning to Crestview. But Crestview was 7th in the area in offense last year. So they were definitely one of the higher scoring teams, but only 2 returning starters from that last year's team. Let's go real quickly through the list of players that were lost. Wyatt Babick, Kyle Saunders, Ethan Powell, William Hardenbrook, Anthony Briarley, Tony Perorzia, Brandon Yassins, Caden Paskovich, Cole Kirchhofer, and Kane McIntosh are all players that were off of the Crestview's team this year. But players to watch: Anthony Kusick, senior, 15 passing touchdowns last year. Anthony, that was most in the division. Talked about it a little bit before the show today. He's definitely going to be a player to watch for Crestview as far as offense is concerned.
Yeah, I mean, when you return, you're running quarterback, and Kusick is a great one, 15 touchdowns, like you said. Then you at least have your lighthouse back. You know, your guiding light to the rest of the offense, and you can build around him with some young talent. One thing you always know about Crestview is they are going to be fast because their track and field program always very strong. They always have fast, athletic kids, and now that they have turf and they're going into their second year of a turf field, utilizing that speed is going to be really important for the Rebels.
Absolutely. Another big one, Jack Yerke, a wide receiver, senior wide receiver for them. That's good. Looks to be that number one target for Kusick going forward this year as well.
He's a big boy too. Like, I mean, they're going to probably use him a little bit as a tight end and a receiver to kind of help with a little bit of run blocking and stuff. But man, we saw how good he developed as a rebounder in basketball season when thrown into the opportunity. Now he's being thrown into the number one target for Crestview's offense. And we couldn't be more positive that he's going to make a big impact for that offense because we've already seen that he's got the ability to shine when thrown into an opportunity. So big things from Yerke, especially on that offensive side.
Yeah, and with the losses of Hardenbrook and Powell, who are mostly took most of the snaps running back wise, I think, for Crestview last year, the one guy you're going to kind of be looking at now going forward, I think, is Roslyn. I think Batura is what we're looking at. Junior for Crestview. He's going to be running back. I think he's going to be looking to get a lot more snaps going into this season, a lot more starting time. They're going to be hanging their hats on him a little bit more, and he's going to need to come up big out of the backfield. And I think they got the perfect guy to step up in that position, though.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. He's fast like everyone else on Crestview, but he's also a tough kid. You can put him up the middle, and he can turn 1 or 2 yard runs into 3 or 4 or 5 yard runs. Always falling forward, very good with his low center of gravity and the ability to keep his pads low. So he's going to be an asset to Crestview's run game. Though the question mark is going to be the skill position players on the outside that they lost. No more Brandon Yansons, no more jet sweeps. They get the defense running from sideline to sideline. So the question is who they're going to use to kind of spread out that defense with the speed and make linebackers run from one end to the other.
Talking about that defense, Batura is also on linebacker position 2 for them, and he's also very good at linebacker. So you're going to see him play both ways, and I think you're going to see impactful minutes. Talking about that Crestview defense was one of, if not the best defenses in the area, I think, last year, holding opponents to under 13 a game. But like you said, Anthony, Crestview, last year's team was a juggernaut. They lost a lot on offense. They also lost a lot on defense. I believe only 3 starters are returning. Some of those losses, we talked about Wyatt Babick. He also played defensive line. Anthony Briarley, also a defensive lineman. Hardenbrook was a linebacker. McIntosh was a linebacker. Paskovich was a defensive back. I mean, basically everyone we said played both positions. Yassins was a defensive back. Anthony Sebastian, defensive lineman. These guys played both ways, and you're losing these guys, not on just offense, on defense. So when you lose that one guy, it's like losing 2 players in one. There's a lot of holes to fill, but there's a lot of young, fresh talent in Crestview to fill them.
One thing I liked about Crestview last year, and I would be hard-pressed to believe it'll happen again, they lost the first game of the year to Champion in a monsoon. The rest of the season, even when the playoffs started, it looked like they were still angry about week 1. Like they held on to that grudge a little bit, and they were always playing with attitude, that chip on their shoulder. And maybe that'll carry over into 2021 where they're just playing constantly with this attitude and chip on their shoulder and almost an angry man mentality coming with the Crestview Rebels, and they'll hit harder and they'll just run a little bit faster than everybody else.
And another player, like I said, I circled him on both offense and defense, Anthony, and I'm going to circle him again is Batera. He plays both sides of the ball, and we talked about what he's going to be doing running back wise. I think he's going to take a big jump. He's going to get more snaps, but we already know what he's going to do on defense. Had 6 sacks last year. I think he had over 100 tackles, I believe, too, last year as well. And I mean, in the season, we know it went into the playoffs, stretched into the playoffs, though. But I mean, 100+ tackles last year. I think 6 sacks. He's doing something pretty well, and he's a good guy to anchor your defense on, a solid linebacker that's going to not only get to the quarterback, but really keep the run game in check too, in that second line of defense.
That'll be so important because you might expect Crestview's offense to maybe take a couple of steps back and not score as much as they did last year. So they're going to lean on that defense to keep holding people down a little bit.
Absolutely. Looking at Crestview's schedule now, going through it, August 19th, home versus Salem, 27th at Southern, September 3rd at United, September 10th at Campbell Memorial, 17th home versus Liberty, 24th home versus Brookfield, October 1st at LeBray, October 8th at Garrettsville Garfield, 15th home versus Champion, and 22nd closing it out at Newton Falls. Looking at this schedule, I mean, obviously they play a lot within the grade tier, but some tough competition outside of the grade tier of the MVAC.
You start with non-conference. I circle that Salem game to kick off the season. Salem, Crestview, real close to each other, both in Columbiana County, right down the road. It's going to be a big rivalry, and we're going to see, Crestview play up a division. I think Salem's Division 4, and lock heads with the Quakers. I think that's going to be a really big week 1 matchup, and we're going to see how it plays out at Crestview, by the way, too.
Games I'm interested in too. The September 3rd game, I circled that one at United. I'm interested in seeing that matchup between these two teams because I'm curious because Crestview might be taking a step back. United might be taking a step up. It might be a good matchup. We'll see though as chips play forward. But the real matchups I'm really excited for, and I think are going to have big big implications on this grade tier division. September 24th, home versus Brookfield, October 1st at LeBray. These are the two teams that came right underneath you, and they're pretty damn good scoring offenses as well.
But then you also have to be looking at that Garfield game. And
I mean, it's a stretch of 3 games that could make or break your season in the division.
New kids on the block, but everyone knows that Garfield has been a very productive, very, very good football program. And Crestview beat them last year in the playoffs.
And I mean,
you got to think
at LeBray and at Garfield in back-to-back games too. It's not going to be an easy end of the year. Very backloaded schedule. It looks like Crestview went with this year because Newton Falls again not going to be a slouch or a pushover as well. Champion, we all know how good they can be as well. So I mean, you go LeBray, Brookfield, LeBray, Garrettsfield, Garfield, Champion, and Newton Falls in your back half of your schedule. Definitely work that's going to need to be done, but at the same time could be gearing themselves up, getting ready for playoffs right at the perfect time.
And that Champion game is going to be a game that everyone on that team circles because, of course, Champion beat them in week 1 last year, and they want to wash that bad taste out of their mouth. They're not used to losing in the conference at Crestview. So they're gonna be eyeing that Champion game. I think LeBray is going to be a very fun match because LeBray is going to have such a good explosive offense returning, and we're going to talk about them a little bit later. But LeBray is going to be a very, very interesting matchup because, like I said, Crestview's defense going to have to step up a lot this year, and that might be the best offense they go up against.
Yeah, and I mean, you hope to have everything ironed out in the first 5 games of the season. Not that they're going to be pushover games, but it's definitely going to be a little bit lighter than your last half of the season. So you want to make sure you're right. Hopefully no injuries for the Rebels by this point because they're going to have to go through a 5-game gauntlet before the playoffs start.
Yeah, and playoffs, Division 5 for Crestview. You look at that region; it's a tough region, and a 4-6 record might not cut it.
And there's a lot of Division 5 teams in the area that we represent too, that we've talked about too, Anthony, that are very talented as well. And it's gonna be you're gonna have to do some work to get into Division 5 playoffs this year. That's for sure.
I don't see that division being even with 16 teams. I don't see it being one where a team below 500 or a team maybe 4-6, maybe. But you're going to be really, really sweating on week 10.
Yeah, I'd say I would just take the jump and say you're going to need at least a 5-5 record if you're in Division 5 this year to make the playoffs or at least be in contention for the playoffs. I don't know if a losing record's going to do it this year or not. You might be right, and you might be able to sneak in if some teams get some upsets later in the season. But I really think you're going to need a 5-5 record, and it's going to be beautiful because we have so many Division 5 teams that are going to be beating up on each other too.
That Salem game is going to be important because that's playing up a division. And then Southern and United are both down divisions. Southern's Division 7 and United's Division 6. Not saying anything that's bad, but that's not going to give you computer points if you win those games. Not going to give you as many computer points as the Salem win if you were able to knock off the Quakers. So,
yeah.
in the grand scheme of things, that Quakers game is going to be very important, especially if Crestview comes down to the wire and is sweating on week 10 on whether or not they're going to make the playoffs.
Now, not making predictions, though. This is just a simple hypothetical if scenario. If Crestview is able to go out, knock off Salem in that first game of the season, and they finish the next 4 series 2-2, and they go into the next half of the season 3-2, looking at Brookfield, LeBray, Garrettsfield, Garfield, Champion, and Newton Falls, needing, you would think, at least 2 to 3 wins out of that. But for me, at least, looking at that 5 schedule, I'd rather try to get 2 wins out of those 5 games than 3 because it's going to be a lot of work to be done. And those first 3 games aren't going to be easy, too. Campbell Memorial and Liberty, you would think, are going to tend to favor in Crestview, but we don't know because these are 2 teams that are going to be taking a step forward.
They're definitely on the upswing. Both teams young and talented last year. And when, like we said it before, and a lot of teams we've already previewed, young and talented that went through growing pains equals dangerous the next year. And they definitely went through their growing pains, but that means that they're going to be dangerous this year.
Absolutely.
So you can't sleep on Campbell or Liberty. So let's move on from Crestview and talk a little bit about LeBray, the team that really gave them trouble last year, and the team that might be giving them trouble this year is that they do play LeBray in that stretch of 5 games to end the season.
And LeBray is one of the teams I'm really hot on in this Gray division. We already know what LeBray and Brookfield did last year in that second round of the playoffs. LeBray knocking them off 55-54 in a shootout, an absolute shootout of a game. But players that were lost, one key player that I was able to circle that was lost on LeBray's team was Anthony Harris, that they aren't getting back this year. Other than that, on significance, players that are coming back, Trevon Drake, Stephen Hamburger, Adam Petrie, Noah Petrie, Devin Carter, Aiden Stevens, which is huge because he had the most passing yards in your division last year, Ashton Dunbar, Zayden Flanagan, Sean Miller, JJ Jethro, like all the way down the line, Anthony. This is a team that is returning almost everybody. I think 23 of their returning players won letters last year as well. And you talk about the way that they have it set up. I think they have 9 returning starters on just offense alone. And I think either 8 or 7 on defense. I could be wrong on that one, but I want to say it's either 8 or 7 on defense too. You're pretty much getting the same team last year with another year of experience under their belt. And I mean, offensively, if we want to look at offensive wise, I think they averaged over 30 points a game. I think that was second or third in the gray tier division in points wise. But they get basically their whole offensive line back this year, Anthony, and they get Aiden Stevens behind center. It's looking pretty good for the LeBray Vikings this year.
You can't talk about LeBray without talking about Aiden Stevens. I mean, Yale commit, he's going to Yale. So that means he's not just doing it well in the field. He's also doing it well in the classroom, of course, because Yale doesn't take just anybody.
Yeah.
We couldn't get into Yale if we tried. We went to YSU and Kent State.
Yeah, here we are now, right? 5-game win streak, though, last year for the Vikings, and it was part of what got them and boosted them into the playoffs that last year. But honestly, I'm looking at Aiden Stevens. He's got Devin Carter too behind him, running back. That's going to be a great power duo there between Carter and Stevens. Trevon Drake is going to be a good versatile player for them too, receiving wise, or he'll probably get some runs and jet sweeps and stuff. He's got some speed to him. Ashton Dunbar will probably be thrown in there in some capacity as well offensively. But I mean, the biggest thing is you get your big time running back and Carter back. You get your big time quarterback and Stevens back. You're returning four of your big offensive linemen and Noah and Adam Petrie, Cam Rabel, and then what was the other one I was thinking of? Oh, Zayden Flanagan. So you're returning 4 offensive linemen, you're returning your running back, you're returning your quarterback, you're returning 2 or 3 receivers. Things are looking up for the LeBray Vikings this year, Anthony, offensive wise.
And obviously want to remind everyone the comments are open. So if you want to talk about MVAC football or anything really, comments are live at any platform you're watching, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch. You can also call into the MPV Bow Heating and Air Conditioning fan line at 330-886-0813. And, LeBray, their offense, no question. Their defense was lackluster a little bit last year, but they're returning everyone on defense too. So, I mean, what kind of things can you say about their defense that you think might improve them? I mean, if they hold teams to even 20 points a game with that offense, they should be golden.
Well, yeah, and I think looking at it, they were averaging over 5 points a game allowed on defense last year. So even getting that down, like you said, 5 points to 20 can turn in another win or two as well. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Offense is what kept LeBray in games a lot last year, and it was that explosive offense, and they could put points on you. But defensively, they were allowing a lot of teams to kind of stay with them pace for pace, scoring wise. Defensively, you want LeBray to be better this year, because if they're better this year defensively, they have a real good shot at making deep runs then in the playoffs. Devin Carter's going to be playing linebacker. Trevon Drake's going to be linebacker. Zayden Flanagan's going to be playing both ways on defensive line. Jethro's going to be playing defensive back. Sean Miller, defensive line. So, yeah, a lot of these guys are two-way players. Like I said, the only key loss, Anthony Harris, was a linebacker last year. You're not getting him back. But with the pieces you have, you would hope that you talked enough about defense, or you're pounding defense at least a little bit this year, and trying to get any sort of improvement on that caliber as you can, because you figure if LeBray can improve their defense at least a little bit, they're going to be a way better football team, and they were already pretty good last year.
Yeah, I think it's a great coaching tool to tell your defense, we don't have to be perfect. We don't have to make the perfect play or make every play. Our offense has our back. We just have to give them a little bit more cushion.
You just need a couple of stops a game, honestly, at that point, because LeBray has proven that they could put points up on some of the best defenses around. So they can put points up on the board. You just need some stops from the defense, and it doesn't even need to be a stop every time. It could just be play for 2 or 3 stops this game, or just play for 2 stops in the half. Just play for some stops and take it 1 stop at a time, maybe. But you need to just play for some stops, I think, right now if you're LeBray, and just try to get that 1, 2, 3 possession lead and try to put teams out that way.
Exactly. And when you talk about LeBray's schedule, what are some games that you have circled as key hinge games that could make or break their season?
Well, looking at the schedule, you open up August 20th, home versus Lakeview, 27th at Valley Christian, September 3rd, home versus Keystone, September 10th, home versus Garrettsville Garfield, September 17th, home versus Champion, 24th at Newton Falls, October 1st, home versus Crestview, 8th at Brookfield, October 15th, home versus Liberty, and October 22nd at Campbell Memorial. So the LeBray Vikings, looking at that, I mean, the first game I'm going October 8th at Brookfield, because everybody wants to see that matchup again. Pretty much both teams are getting almost just about everyone back too. So, I mean, it's going to be a great game.
Everyone's hoping for another 55-54 barn burner that where Brookfield tries to go for 2 and tries to win the game at the last second.
And you might just see that too.
The game took forever too. I mean, it was just like it kept going.
The nice thing about it, it's October 8th. So early October, 50-50 on what kind of weather you're really going to get. Is it going to be warmer? Is it going to be colder? What are you going to get? Are you going to see more passing? Could it be rain? Could it be snow? It could be pretty much anything October 8th in Ohio. But no, that definitely is a game that I think everybody has circled after that playoff game last year. They want to see these 2 teams again. And if you have a ticket to go pretty much anywhere October 8th and you're in that Brookfield area, I'd go see LeBray and Brookfield, because you're about to see fireworks.
And then how about they open the conference schedule with an opportunity to really make a statement? I think everyone thinks that Garfield is going to come in and really plant their flag into this conference because of how good they've been. They open the conference with beating Garfield, and everyone's on notice.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, conference play starts September 10th, Garrettsville Garfield at home. Another tough game, like you said, conference, just joining the conference and joining the division is Garrettsville Garfield. So they're going to be able to create new matchups and new rivalries with these teams. And this might be the team. You might be looking really at 3-team race between Garrettsville, Garfield, LeBray, and Brookfield this season. Obviously, we don't know what Crestview are going to do. We don't know what the teams that
on the Rebels.
Yeah. And these teams that were down low are going to come back up. This is going to be a very, very tough division, I think, because every single one of these teams is a team that can take drastic improvements. Every single one of these teams won at least a game last year, too, out of a minimum of 6. Some played 6, some played more, but they've at least won a game. So they have a good enough team. Some are younger than others, some are older than others, but these are good quality football teams that can win games. And it's just all about, some need to take that next step. Some are taking a step back, but everyone in this division, it's going to be a gauntlet to try to get through it.
I'm excited. Then they close the season with Liberty and Campbell, who are going to be very important because we expect those teams to be kind of bunched together. Campbell, Liberty.
And I tell you what, October 8th at Brookfield, and then it follows with Liberty at Campbell. You might be riding high off of a victory or riding low after a defeat, and one of those 2 teams can sneak one on you if you're not careful, especially being an in-division opponent, and especially Liberty and Campbell are 2 teams that hover towards the bottom of the division, but we're expecting to make big strides up this year, and they have the talent on those teams to upset a team like LeBray if they're not coming in prepared to face a Liberty or a Campbell.
That could be a situation where either one of those teams could be hovering in the middle, trying to make a last-second push. And LeBray could either create separation or make it a lot easier for Liberty or Campbell to sneak into, the top spot of the conference.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And I think playoff implications could be on the line, especially during those last 3 weeks of the season. And I mean, I think that Brookfield and that LeBray game is going to send a ripple effect through the division. And it's really going to play out what we should expect to see, or give us at least a foundation of what we can expect to see coming out of that great division of the MVAC, because I think that's gonna change a lot of things up. Whoever loses that game between LeBray and Brookfield late in the season.
Not too much of a bold prediction, but I will say that LeBray will have the highest scoring offense in the MVAC. I think, like,
And if you have them, Brookfield might be right under them too, hot on their tail, because Brookfield's got a pretty solid offense up there as well.
LeBray's offense is going to be so hard to stop that once again their key is going to be, can they make a couple stops a game and give their offense, like, you give that offense 14 points and you know you're golden. You give them a little bit of cushion, a couple of key stops, maybe force a couple of turnovers, and you can really run away with the game quick. You can be down to LeBray 21-0 before you can blink.
Even if you don't get stops, even if you just hold teams to field goals
Right.
instead of touchdowns, that works just as effectively if you're LeBray too, with the offense you have.
That's interesting, because a lot of teams, you get down to the 15, 10-yard line, you'll settle for a field goal. Against LeBray, teams might not, because you settle for a field goal against offense like that, you're basically digging your own grave.
Well, yeah, because you settle for a field goal. Now you're only down 4, but then they go right back down. Now you're down 11. And now you got to play catch up even more now.
We might see more fourth down and goals being taken against LeBray than a lot of other teams in the area. I mean, you might
have to.
You might not settle for field goals at all.
What team sets that precedent, though, is going to be interesting. Are they going to come out of the gates week 1 and do it against LeBray, or are they going to wait a few, see how it plays out, and then just start trying to attack and be more aggressive? Because I agree with you. You're going to need to be aggressive to beat this LeBray team, because this LeBray team's offense knows nothing but aggressiveness and how to put points up on you.
We will take a quick timeout on Running Point. On the other side of the break, we'll maneuver to volleyball, where we're going to talk to head coach of the Columbiana Clippers, Jennifer Martin, on the Clippers team that finished second in the MVAC last season. So don't go anywhere. That's coming up next on Running Point, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austin Town.
At Greenwood Chevrolet, shop with confidence, knowing we're ready to go the extra mile for you. With the largest selection of used vehicles in the Valley, backed by the Greenwood Advantage Warranty. Only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
New things happen all day. Some are good, some not so good. In today's complicated world, while you're busy working, playing, and living life, we're busy helping you make sense of the day's news. And there's only one place where it comes together with clarity, context, and accountability. It's 21 News at 6 with me, Madison Tromler, and Derek Steyer.
21 News at 6. It's what the day's news really means to you.
Welcome home to a home made homier with Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods. Inspiration starts at BairdBrothers.com and is turned into reality when high-quality hardwoods are delivered right to your home. Baird Brothers has the latest design trends, shiplap and skinny lap interior siding, antique oak rustic flooring, and, well, you'll find them all at BairdBrothers.com. Ordered easily, delivered conveniently, enjoyed comfortably. BairdBrothers.com.
WRS Wealth Advisors, the area's premier wealth and retirement specialists. Located on South Avenue in Boardman.
Hi, this is Jim Myers with Myers Family Insurance, your local Medicare and retirement resource. We're excited to have sports back. Whether you're on the field or cheering from the stands, sports unifies communities and brings hope for the future. We're all one team working together. At Myers Family Insurance, we know the importance of a great team.
Our team continues to grow to help you with your Medicare and retirement needs.
The annual election period is October 15th through December 7th. Now's the time to make sure your plan continues to meet your needs for the upcoming year.
Call today.
Hi, I'm Colin Chupa. And I'm Kelsey Clem from K-Squared Marketing. Our boutique marketing firm specializes in media planning and buying, public relations, event marketing strategies, and strategic sponsorships. We can integrate our services with your existing game plan, or we can be your entire marketing team. Your goals, our game plan. Let's win together. Call K-Squared Marketing at 330-623-2626 2730 or visit ksquared.marketing to learn more.
Welcome back to a Thursday edition of Running Point, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. Anthony Hartwig alongside Ty Bartell, and joining us on Running Point right now, head coach of the Columbiana Clippers volleyball team, Jennifer Martin. Coach, thank you so much for joining us. How are we doing today?
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm doing well. How are you?
All right, let's talk a little bit about your program. I mean, you finished second in the EOAC last year, a solid 20-6 record overall, but you lose a lot of the things that you guys worked on so much last year. You know, you lost Cessna Stoy, Grace Whitmer, Macy Linhart, and Maddie Withrow, and that's over 300 kills, a lot of assists, and a lot of digs that are kind of creating holes. What's the plan to recoup after losing those important seniors?
You're right. We had a great group of seniors last year. We had Maddie Withrow, Cessna Stoy, Grace Whitmer, and Macy Linhart. And like you said, we were really happy with our season last year and how we ended up. And they were a really core group that's kind of taken Columbiana volleyball to the next level. Fortunately, this year we have 7 seniors to take their place. So we have a great team with some great senior leadership. And then we also have a very talented group of freshmen coming up. And so we're excited to put our seniors on the court with our freshmen and kind of mix those together. And we're looking forward to hopefully another successful season this year as well.
Coach Ty Bartell, last year it seemed like Wellsville was a huge thorn in your side, getting the better of you on 2 occasions last year. Talk to me about what that matchup looks like this year and how you look to go up against the Wellsville Tigers this year.
Yeah, those were our two losses, and then we also lost to United last year in the league. Wellsville always has a great program. They've got a lot of girls that have a lot of experience. So I'm not sure how many exactly they lost. But like I said, we do have some girls that have some experience. And then we also have our young group that's coming in and the rest of our senior class. So I'm hoping it's a good matchup. I know they'll be strong. I know they'll be a strong one in the league, but I'm hoping it's a great match, and I'd love to beat them.
You do return your kills leader from last year, and Tori Long, who finished the year with 229 and led the team. How much do you think you're going to lean on her offense this year and her ability to kind of put balls down and put pressure on the other defense?
Yeah, Tori is going to be a big asset to our program. I think she has over 500 kills right now. She's strong. She's an all-around athlete, but she also has 800 and some digs as well. So she plays defense on her. She'll be our big hitter. But we also have Julia Rapp in the middle, who has gotten a lot stronger in the off season. And so we'll have her. And then we also have a couple other seniors, Camille Zentner, Tommy Ross, Kaylee Cranville for the front row. And then we also have a few freshmen coming in. But for sure, Tori is our heavy hitter. We will rely on her. We're looking forward to seeing her in that senior leadership role because she is a 4-year letter winner. So now it's her turn to kind of step up and take our young team and show them the ropes as well.
For those who may not know you, Coach, or know your type of culture for your team, run me through what a Jennifer Martin volleyball practice looks like.
Oh, gosh. Well, we spent a lot of time in the gym. We're really happy to be in the gym this year. Last year, we started the season in the Firestone Park because we weren't allowed to be in the gym together. So we spent a lot of time in the park, and we were only allowed to have a ball per person. So we did a lot of ball control drills, and obviously we were pretty successful. But I think that in the past couple of years, like I said, those seniors from last year, they really brought the culture of like expecting to win, expecting to work hard. So every day that we come in, we're there to work. We go back to the basics, ball control, serve, receive, things like that, and just kind of take the basics and try to like work to our strengths and what works for us. Like I said, we have, our big hitters that we'll work on, but, obviously defense is important too. So we have a new libero this year taking Macy's role, Liv Samil. She transferred in from a different school last year. We're looking forward to having her on the court full time this year. Last year, she only had half a season with us as a transfer student. So we're really looking forward to having her, and we just work. We work as much as we can.
When you talk about the culture and the success that the program has had over the years, not just last year, but it's a historically successful program. What's it like, kind of just trying to keep that afloat and trying to keep the success where it's been for so long?
I think that, like I said, I think our girls have really embraced that. Our girls want to be successful. We have a lot of young talent. They're pushing. They're working in the off season. A lot of girls are playing club ball. So, they really want to get better. They've kind of taken on that role as well, that, we got to work to be successful, and we're going to do what we can to get wins. And our big goal is to put years up on our board in the gym.
Outside of in-game talk, Coach, talk to me a little bit about the mental side of the game for these players and getting that team camaraderie and team chemistry. How do you look to build that? How have you built that over the years, and how do you look to maintain that this year?
I think that's a big part of the game, especially with girls, and especially in volleyball with rally scoring now. 1 point can turn into 2 points, can turn into 5 points pretty quickly. So we do work a lot on mental toughness, just working on drills and things that, you have to do a certain thing before we're done or before we're out. Our group of girls, they're the nicest group of girls that we could have. They all get along. They're all friends. They've welcomed the new varsity players in, and we do a lot of team building. They do a lot of team building on their own. They have their own sleepovers and tie-dye parties and stuff like that. So I just think the fact that, we just really have a lot of nice kids in our district, and the fact that they all get along and they all kind of have that common goal has really been a positive for our program.
Anyone that watches volleyball knows how important communication is on the court when the ball's in the air. What's your favorite communication drill to run to make sure that the team is good with their communication skills?
Well, that's something we're working on this year. We play a game that we get points for talking, and it's basically called like chaos. And so on the sidelines, we'll have coaches score if the girls call the ball, if the girls call where the hit's coming from, if the girls call for a hit, if the setters call, and it ends up like going to 100. I always make up the points half the time because it gets so loud in the gym. I can't tell who's talking and who's not. But it definitely gets kind of crazy there. So we kind of work on that. And that's just a big thing that we're pushing, is communicating with each other, because most volleyball teams are successful when they are able to communicate with each other.
Coach, there's no doubt that volleyball has been growing exponentially too, especially within the last 5 years, I would say, and go back even further, the last 10 years. Talk to me a little bit about your roots in volleyball, what got you involved, and how you've seen it evolve since you've been involved.
Well, when I played, you had to score to win a point. So that was a long time ago. I played at Springfield. And I had Coach Knight as a coach. So I really enjoyed my time there. After I graduated, I decided to take on a coaching role. I coached club starting at 18. So I've actually been coaching for almost 20 years now. I can't believe I'm that old to say that. But between club, I lived in North Carolina for a while. I've coached middle school. I've coached JV. And then 6 years ago, when I took over our program, that was my first job as a head coach. And I mean, volleyball is just a great game. It's awesome to watch. It's awesome to see how the game has changed. If you've been watching the Olympics, the men's game is completely different than the women's game, and it's completely different from the beach game. But the basics are all still there, and the skills are all still there. Like I said, what we work on in practice. So just as a player throughout school, I just kind of fell in love with the game. And then, playing on club teams and then coaching club teams and things like that. That's just kind of how I got there.
Now, with Columbiana and what you guys have going forward, what are some goals that this team has set this year to meet that checklist that you look at the end of the season and say, we completed our goals? What are some of the ones that you guys have set already?
So we haven't quite had that sit down conversation yet about specific goals. I know the success that we had last year is definitely on the girls' minds. Being in the district championship game, that hasn't happened. I think that was the first time for us since at least 10 years. And I think in 10 years, that was the first time. So that was a big success for us last year. I know that they have that on their mind. But I know we're going to start with little goals. Like I said, communication is going to be a big goal this year. Learning to work with each other, because we do have a newer group on the floor, girls that haven't played together. So those are going to be like some little goals that we work on. And then, the league, we've not won a league in, I think, 20 years at this point. So I know that they would love to see 2021 up on the board. That's kind of where we look. We look at the gym. We love to have our years represented up in the gym on what we did that year. But we're definitely going to start with some small goals of just as a team, what we need to do to be successful, and then kind of look ahead to, league, and then go from there. We got to have those sit down conversations real soon. We're only day 4 right now.
Now, developing youth is so important. So what does Columbiana do to get the kids developed before they get to you as freshmen?
So we have a good middle school program. We actually have 2 new middle school coaches this year, and our 2 middle school coaches are also Columbiana alumni, which is awesome. One of them is one that I coached, so I'm really excited about having her in the program. Coach Mosier is coaching our 7th grade, and then Coach Peak is coaching our 8th grade. She's also a Columbiana graduate from earlier. She's not as young as Coach Mosier. She spent time with Coach Wilkinson when she played in the program, and Coach Heasley. So they do a great job, and they kind of know the expectations of, what we're getting ready for when they get to high school. And we have a few girls that do play club early. We also run a couple like little spikers camps. We had some 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders in the gym earlier this year in the summer, which was really fun to see them in there and kind of get them excited. They all got to go home with a volleyball, so we're hoping that they're using that and playing and kind of learning. And then we also offer a couple other middle school camps throughout the season. In the fall, we'll have our 5th and 6th graders come back in just to kind of see and see how the game goes, and then we'll invite them to come to a game. And then in the spring, we try to get our 6th graders in the gym as well, just to kind of get them used to the game so that they're ready for 7th grade when they start in June.
Coach, talking about the challenges that you expect the team to face this season, talk to me about one of your biggest challenges you face as a coach. Maybe not just in the season, but overall, one of your biggest challenges that you face as a coach.
Biggest challenge as a coach? Oh my. Do I just have to name one? No. Gosh, the coaching part is easy. The girls make it easy. Sometimes the biggest challenge is everything else that you have to do, all the paperwork and all the making sure things are in and girls have all their physicals and are able to play and stuff like that. I don't know. I don't know what a challenge is. Jeez. Let me see. That's my biggest challenge right now. But like I said, it's the beginning of the season. So, I think preparing for games, preparing for different opponents, as you coach a little bit longer, you kind of learn, things that you need to do for different opponents. It's just not all the same. That's kind of challenging, trying to remember, what defense to play or who hits where and kind of how to adjust your defense, stuff like that. So I think as you grow as a coach, that's something that you learn and something that can kind of come into play.
Take the time to highlight your coaching staff. And we know that head coaches wouldn't be anything without the assistant coaches that hold them up. So give us some highlights on your staff and the people that support you in the program.
Yes, I would love to. They are awesome. So like I said, our 7th and 8th grade, we have Coach Mosier. She just graduated and she played throughout the Columbiana program through 7th through 12th grade. Our 8th grade coach is Coach Pete. She's also a Columbiana graduate, and she was a big volleyball player. We're so excited to have her. And then my 2 assistant coaches, I actually have 2 new ones this year, but one's not really new. Coach Wilkinson, She has been in Columbiana volleyball for a long time. I'll say a long time. I know that when we played her when I was a senior, they ended up beating us, but we don't bring that up. But Coach Wilkinson, she's awesome. She's been around volleyball for a long time. She knows the game. I tell her she's the brains behind the operation because she can see everything and kind of, let us know what we need to work on, how we need to adjust. And then I'm also excited we brought on Coach Dangler this year. She recently coached at Lisbon, and she has kids in Columbiana, and we're really excited to have her expertise. She played at United, and she also played at college. And, we're really excited to have her. And then Coach Rich, who I had last year, she decided she needed to have a baby in September. So she left me, but she's still been coming in, and we really appreciate them. And I just feel like with everybody kind of has their own thing, we really make a good team, and I'm really excited to have everybody. And I appreciate, everything that they all do.
Coach, we talk a lot about the community involvement and how important that is to sports. Talk to me a little bit about how important it is to have, we know there's good parents and there's bad parent interactions with every school, and I think everyone experiences at least one. Talk to me how important it is to have a good foundation of parents backing these schools and these teams.
Yeah, parents really, they're a key part, just like in school, the parents set the foundation. And like I said, we have the greatest girls. Our girls are so nice and great. And that comes from home. We appreciate all the parent support and everything that they do for us. And, we always run a couple fundraisers, and they're always willing to help out. We always run like a pink game, and the amount of donations and things that come in from them are just unbelievable. So, you're right. The parents are important, and, them just kind of their role as a parent and them respecting our role as a coach is something that, can make a program successful or not.
Backing that up, I know all the parents alternate with snacks they bring to the team every night. What's the best snack that you've seen a parent bring with your coaching team? Because I know sometimes they get real creative with what they bring.
Some of these treat bags that they come up with. I mean, I am not a fancy person. If there's an easy way to do something, like when it comes to whatever, like I figure it out. I mean, if I was like a treat bag, they would be getting like Lunchables. But these treat bags have like volleyballs cut out of them. They have the kids' names. They have the numbers. They're like ribbons hanging off of them. They're amazing. Like I would be passing out Lunchables because I just feel like I don't put time into that. But no, they're awesome with that. And the homemade pepperoni rolls are pretty awesome when those end up in the treat bags. Homemade cookies. I mean, and I really anything that anytime somebody wants to give me food, I'm not going to complain. But yes, the homemade pepperoni rolls those are where it's at.
Here we are at lunchtime talking about snack bags, making everyone hungry. We still have 2 hours of a show to talk. Just to expand the community outreach and the community support that you guys get at Columbiana is some of the best that I see. Talk about what it's going to be like to hopefully, knock on wood, get a full capacity crowd back in that gym and really be able to build off their energy that they give you live in the gym.
Yeah, I'm hoping that like I said, last year was just such a strange year, and I don't know, I feel like it was just kind of a blur. But one of the big things was that we couldn't have our full attendance, and each kid was only limited to, I think, 2 tickets. I think the seniors got 4 tickets. So it was, really kind of interesting on who came to the games and who didn't. So we try to do a couple community things to get some people in the gym. Next week, we're going to have an alumni game where alumni come in and get to play. So we're hoping that some of them will be able to come back and support. It's always nice to have them back in the gym. And like I said, we always do a pink game and get a lot of people. But we're hoping this year to have the full capacity and, to get the people cheering so that we do have that home crowd advantage.
When you talk about the home crowd advantage, I mean, you guys have a gym that is very unique. It's kind of old school. It can get hot in there, especially in the early summer months. When you have teams come in that are so used to the nice air-conditioned gyms and they have to play, a 4 or 5 set match, they start to sweat in that gym. Do you think that's a legitimate home court advantage?
We were just talking about that this morning because the girls were complaining I wouldn't put the fan on. I said, what happens when we go somewhere and it's super hot? It might be. It might be. I think sometimes, like, I know some schools we go to and it's freezing. So I could definitely see that. We've been training without the fan on the past couple days. I think next week we'll have to put it on, but we still get a decent airflow throughout that gym. It's not terrible, but I agree. Yeah, it might be a little bit of a home court advantage.
I think that clipper clap is a home court advantage too.
We got to get that going this year.
Get that clipper clap going,
Yes, we might do that next week at our alumni game. Maybe we'll have a practice.
Yeah, get it practice, get it up. What's your schedule look like when you guys open the season, and what are some games that you're really excited about when you talk about your schedule?
So we open on the 21st against McDonald. And that game, the second time we played them last season, they took us to 5 there. So I think that is going to probably be a good match right off the bat. We have a Saturday game. Sometimes Saturday games are a little rough to get moving on. So we're opening up on the 21st on Saturday. The 2 Wellsville games for our league, I'm hoping those will be a good match. We actually have Mineral Ridge on our schedule this year. So I'm looking forward to that, to see
a little bit of on your mind, I'm sure.
Yes, that's another one on our mind. Who else? United took us to 5 down there, and we actually lost down there to United. So I know that'll be a big match when we head down there. Trying to think. I know Mineral Ridge. I can't discount any of the teams in our league. I feel like we have a pretty strong league. You never know what's going to happen on any of those games because we got a lot of players in the EOAC. And, I think all our league games will probably be pretty good. And Heartland also, we always have a pretty good match with Heartland. So I feel like we have a pretty decent schedule that should give us some competition and really get us ready for hopefully the postseason.
Coach, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. It was great to hear from you. We look forward to the season starting and getting to cover you guys as the season goes along. We'll talk to you again real soon.
Yes, thank you so much. I want to say thank you to you guys for covering the local sports. It's just awesome, the amount of sports that you cover and the variety of sports. So we all really appreciate all that you guys do too. So thank you very much.
We definitely love it, and we'll get down to that gym and we'll teach people how to do the clipper clap. All right.
Okay, that's awesome. Thank you. All right. Bye.
Bye, guys. That was Columbiana head coach Jennifer Martin joining us, and it's one of the weird things when that crowd wants to do a clipper clap but it can't really grasp the timing. It can get wonky really quick. So we're gonna have to teach some people in Columbiana how to do it properly.
Anthony Hartward coming down with a live video demonstration. They should play it before each game. Have it on a big projector.
It's like you're skipping. You gotta skip to the beat. Almost like Monty Python doing the coconuts. Think about that. All right, we'll take a quick time out. We'll be back with more previews of MVAC football teams next on YSN's Running Point, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown.
Every customer has a story, and at Greenwood Chevrolet, we are committed to making sure it ends with you in the right vehicle. I get to be part of somebody's adventure, whether it's buying a car for the first time, helping them get approved, or finding the perfect car for their budget. I'm proud that people trust me with their finances. They trust me to take care of them, and they trust me with their story. I'm Tracy, and I'm ready to go the extra mile for you only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
Quality, customer service, and integrity. Those are the 4 words that have driven our success since 1957 at Joe Dickey Electric.
Joe Dickey Electric is one Mahoning Valley landmark business that stays current with the requirements of our customers. Family owned and managed, we are an electrical contractor and energy solutions provider. Every member of our team adds to his or her skill set through ongoing training. Residential, commercial, industrial, automotive, and more. We keep ahead of the needs of our customers with a fleet of more than 50 vehicles and 24/7 emergency service, so you're never left in the dark.
Jimmy Sutherland here, director of Isle, Purple Cat, and Golden String. We are happy to support YSN and two of my favorite people, Scotty Mincher and Super Dave O'Malley. We are an agency that provides services for adults with disabilities. We infuse humor, passion, and joy into their lives. If you know of any folks with disabilities that need our assistance, please contact us.
Your teams work hard and give it all they've got. Well, so does ours, because 21 Sports and YSN give you extra effort when covering local sports. 21 Sports and YSN, winning coverage of our Valley's teams.
Hello, I'm Greg Burbick with G. Burbick Farms. For the last 100 years, my family has farmed in the Columbiana and Mahoning counties. I began raising cattle in 1996 with the goal of providing a better product for you and your family on the dinner table. Our grass-fed and grain-supplemented Black Angus beef are raised with no hormones, steroids, or antibiotics. We're known for our hometown-friendly service and incredible tasting products. We're locally owned and have customers across the tri-state area. Our products go from our farm to your family. Stop by our farm on New Buffalo Road or visit us on the web at gburbickfarms.com. Don't forget to like us on Facebook. G. Burbick Farms, it just tastes better.
Hi, this is Tommy Clem, owner of WRS Insurance Solutions.
WRS Insurance Solutions is a local independent agency that specializes in life, Medicare, long-term care, and disability products. Call us at 330-953-3722 or visit us at wrsinsuranceSolutions.com to learn more.
Good luck to all the student athletes in the Valley.
If you're looking for a quality pre-owned vehicle, why shop anywhere else but Tri-State Ford? Choose from our great selection of pre-owned vehicles. Plus, we've got you covered with our exclusive Tri-State Ford Advantage. It includes a 10-year, 200,000-mile warranty with your pre-owned vehicle and much more. Come see why so many customers from the Tri-State area buy their pre-owned vehicle at Tri-State Ford.
Customer focus, community driven. Tri-State Ford East Liverpool or visit tristateford.net.
Welcome back to YSN's Running Point, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. Joined by Ty Bartell. Ty, let's start with Brookfield. Dive into what they're returning and what they're bringing back.
All right, yeah. Looking at the Brookfield Warriors, we already went through LeBray, so this is the other part of the two-part teams that we're going to be looking at that are going to have dynamic offenses this year. But the Brookfield Warriors this year look to be pretty solid, as they're also going to be returning 8 starters. Another team that averaged over 30 points per game. Looking at some of the guys they did lose, Hayden Gibson, the quarterback, is gone. That's going to be a guy that they're going to need to figure out how to replace. RJ Hall, their kicker, Gibby Hugh, their offensive lineman, and Mitch Sidlowski, another offensive lineman. But, I mean, guys that they're going to get returning, a senior offensive lineman, and Lucas Beckenstein, DeAndre Craig, a senior running back that looks to be really good. Connor Heater, a junior offensive lineman. Cody Hoover, a senior fullback. Isaiah Jones, junior wide receiver, as well as guys like Donovan Pawlowski, who looks to be the new quarterback of Brookfield as he comes into his junior year, getting his first year as a starter, it looks like. Going to be something new for Brookfield, though, as a new guy under center, but they're returning a lot of that team that they had last year, Anthony.
You know, when you're talking about the matchup that is eventually going to happen between Brookfield and LeBray, quarterback might come down to it.
It could very well come down to the quarterback.
Aiden Stevens coming back, and Brookfield looking for a new one. Not saying that new quarterback can't come in and light the show on fire, but you know that just could be one of the things you circle, give advantage to LeBray. But when you look at Brookfield, they always have that attitude, man. we're going to put you around. We're going to be physical. We're going to knock you down, put you on your butt, and then we're going to make sure you don't get back up. They've always been a physical, hard-nosed team. Don't see that changing this year with returning everyone, almost everyone, I should say, especially on the lines.
And I mean, you can't really give anything to Pawlowski as far as what he's coming in with, because he got to sit under Hayden Gibson for years too. And I mean, got to sit under the guy that won Gray Tears Player of the Year last year as well for the MVAC. So he was behind a guy that knew how to take care of the ball, didn't turn it over that much, really played smart football. Learned a year under that system, albeit COVID year, but that kind of put those guys that played the same position together a lot more. So Pawlowski was spending a little bit extra time with Gibson, maybe a little bit extra talking time. I mean, you could do so much, but I mean, picking the brain from a guy that did it before you is always an advantage too.
Just saying, Patrick Mahomes spent a year under Alex Smith. A lot of people point to that as one of his reasons why he succeeded so much. He learned how to take care of the ball.
And just learning too, especially for a guy that's a freshman or a sophomore quarterback too, getting that year to just sit in, be front row, learn everything and just absorb everything before you even step on the field is huge, because it's hard. It's hard to learn an offense, especially as like a freshman or a sophomore quarterback. It's hard to learn an offense in a few weeks and a few practice weeks, get out there, get on and get ready to go. It usually takes some time. So I think he has that advantage as Pawlowski, and I think it's going to be interesting to see what he brings to the table as only a junior. So you got 2 years left in eligibility for Brookfield.
Talk about Brookfield's defense and like LeBray, maybe let a little bit more points than they would have liked last year, and they have to shore that up with the offensive power that they have. Like LeBray again, and we're talking like the same side of the coin. If they can just cut down their points per game, maybe 5, 6, or 7, then they can be really sitting pretty as a dominant team, not just in the MVAC, but in their division playoffs as well.
Well, yeah, and the thing with Brookfield last year was a very young defense, littered with juniors and sophomores, not a whole lot of seniors that played on that defense. Some of the losses they had, Hayden Gibson played both. He played defensive back. Gibby Hogue played defensive line. Pat Reardon played linebacker. Mitch Lowski played linebacker. But guys that are returning, they got 9 guys coming back on defense. Guys like Lucas Beckstein, that's a senior defensive lineman. DeAndre Craig plays linebacker. Lucas Franz plays defensive back. Isaiah Jones, defensive back. Cody Hoover, I think, is defensive line. AJ Bartolin is a linebacker, junior linebacker that I think is going to be really good for Brookfield this year as well. But honestly, I think Brookfield, with the pieces that they have coming back, another year of experience under their belt defensively, it's going to be fun to watch what Brookfield has to offer, because they definitely have a team that was very young last year, a little bit more experience, littered with more juniors and seniors now. It should be interesting to see if Brookfield takes that next step defensively and gets better. Holding teams to under 20 would probably be a great goal for Brookfield this year.
I want to remind everyone real quick that the comment sections are live. If you want to chime in on Brookfield football or MVAC football or anything, really, just comment whatever platform you're watching on, whether it be Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch. You can comment and we will see it, put it up, and we'll hear from you. You can also call in to the MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning hotline, 330-886-0813. Me and Ty would definitely love to hear from the fans out there on their takes on MVAC football and everything else. Ty, when you talk about Brookfield's schedule, what are some games that you have circled as games that could mean a lot for them going forward in the season?
Well, going through their schedule in its entirety, we start off August 20th there. They start out at McDonald. August 27th moves to Springfield at home. September 3rd at Western Reserve. September 10th home versus Liberty. 17th home versus Campbell Memorial. 24th at Crestview. October 1st, home versus Newton Falls. October 8th, home versus LeBray. October 15th, home versus Garrettsville Garfield. And October 22nd at Champion. And I tell you what, for Division 5, excuse me, for not Division 5, for Brookfield going into the season, starting off McDonald and Springfield in the beginning, Anthony, that's a tall task. And Western Reserve too.
They're doing a tour to the other tier of the MVAC, and they're going up against 3 of the top teams in that other tier, and definitely the top team, I should say, in Springfield, the won it handedly last year. McDonald right behind them, and then Western Reserve, always a proud program man, that's a tough non-conference schedule to try to get yourselves ready for your tier of the MVAC.
You might see some fireworks in that Springfield game as well as Brookfield. If they could get loose on Springfield's defense, they could put some points up on the Tigers as well. And we already know, as we'll get into the Scarlet tier tomorrow, we already know what Bo Brungard does over there with Springfield, and we'll talk a little bit more about him and the Tigers tomorrow. But we know that game's going to be offensive rich on August 27th.
In that game, Brookfield better bring that attitude I was talking about earlier, like push them around, knock them down, make sure Springfield has to constantly get back up, because if you let Springfield walk through that game, you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, and I mean, it is home too, so Brookfield does get the home field advantage in that, but we know Springfield travels well, and sometimes it could feel like an away game with how many people they pack in, so it's going to be loud on both sides. You're going to hear one end of the stadium rattling, the other end of the stadium's going to be rattling as well, so that's going to be a great, loud game. Other games I'm looking to, there's a slew of 3 home games, October 1st, 8th, and 15th. Newton Falls, LeBray, Garrettsville, Garfield. We already talked about that LeBray game, but that Garrettsville-Garfield game after LeBray is going to be very interesting as well, because coming in either off of a victory or off of a loss against LeBray, it can be a quick 0-2 weeks, 0 for 2 in weeks, or you could come in a little bit too high on it and take Garrettsville a little bit lightly. But I don't think anyone's taking Garrettsville lightly.
Yeah, exactly. I think they'll be fine being prepared for Garfield. You know, when I'm looking at the league, those are the 2 games that could decide, you know, who's going to end up in that King of the Hill top spot. I mean, you look there are 4 teams that are going to be vying, you know, for the top spot. If you go based on what the record's shaped up to be last year, it's going to be, you know, LeBray, Brookfield, Crestview, and Garfield all vying for that top spot. So you got 2 games back to back against 2 of those 4 teams. Might be super important in regards to league standings.
Yeah, and I mean, they have a tough schedule all around, too. Front-loading it, too, with Western Reserve, Springfield, and McDonald. So not really any light spots in the schedule. I'd say your lightest spot might be that Liberty Campbell Memorial game. But, I mean, even if we consider that one light, those are 2 teams that we said are going to be coming up and going to be making big strides, too. So this is really a 10-game schedule where you're going to have to go into each week ready for a fight and ready to lay all the chips out on the line, because each one of these teams they're going to bring it.
Yeah, and the only unfortunate thing about their schedule, and we talked about it with LeBray, division-wise, it's not high division teams, so you're not going to get like massive computer points. It'll help cushion if you struggle a little bit in a part. So Brookfield, like LeBray, is going to have to make sure they shore up that record, because they're not going to get cushion from big division wins, because every team they play, I believe, is at least in their division or below their division. I don't think any of those teams are higher. I could be wrong, but yeah. If I'm wrong, I'm sure the comments will light up.
And doesn't it feel like a crime if you beat Springfield, you don't get anything really in way of computer points?
I think that's the biggest computer point game you can get, because
as far as that's concerned, though. But I mean, we know too, I mean, the computer points are going to do some as far as the non-conference game goes, but there's a lot of conference games that you got to win, and you got to win your conference games to win your conference. And I mean, after those first 3, McDonald, Springfield, Western Reserve, it's go time from there on out. You're going Crestview, and you're going right in. You're facing the top team in the division last year, and you got to face the conference from there on out. Your division. So, I mean, division play is going to be huge for all these teams. You talked about those 4 teams that are going to be competing for this division. Playing well in the division, not just against those teams, but against all teams in the division, is going to be wildly important this year.
I am really looking forward to the battle of the trenches in that week 1 matchup between Brookfield and McDonald. Both those programs seem like they coach the defense and offensive lines up so well. They're both, like I said, hard-nosed, physical. McDonald loves to run the ball. We're going to talk about them tomorrow. The battle in the trenches is going to be big in that game. It might be, if you took all the week 1 matchups and said which one is the biggest from the offense and defensive lines going at it, it might be that McDonald-Brookfield matchup.
It could very well be that McDonald-Brookfield matchup. And honestly, I mean, McDonald's another one of those teams that They want to try to dethrone Springfield, and Springfield's trying to make it a three-peat of attending the state championship game. So we know that the competition that's going to be going over there, McDonald's not coming into this season lightly at all. They're coming in with high expectations as well, as does Brookfield. So I mean, like you said, right out of the gate, this is a huge win for both teams. Get some momentum to start off early in the season, and it would be a pretty big win, I think, for both programs, getting a win against a team that was wildly successful last year.
Let's go from Brookfield down to a team that we think is going to be really on the upswing and was very young and talented last year in Campbell Memorial. Talk about the Red Devils, what this young talent is, and some of the things that they're returning to that beautiful turf field that they have down in Campbell.
Yeah, looking at Campbell, I mean, they're really interesting this year because of how young they were last year. Some players that they lost, James Schaefer, Deshaun Bell, Christian Storage, Jamal Henderson. Players that I have listed to watch is Dylan Henderson, who's going to be coming into his sophomore year, and Christian James coming into his senior year. This is a Red Devils team, won 2 games last year, and they did that too, all while scoring under 10 points a game in offense. And if that teaches you anything about what they were able to do defensively, that's a big step for Campbell. We'll go into their defense later, but we'll talk a little bit about the offense. This is the one area where Campbell needs to figure out how to score touchdowns or just get points on the board.
And the one thing about their offense, and just to interrupt you real quick, they didn't score a lot, but they moved the ball a lot, so they just couldn't finish drives. I mean,
exactly, and it comes down to just getting points on the board because your defense is able to keep you in a lot of these games. It's about getting that 6 on the board, getting that 3 even on the board if you can. But I mean, in this, for the offense this year, I'm looking for them to convert those field goals into touchdowns this year. Have a little bit more of those drives that end with a punt, end in a field goal. Try to get that next step and make sure you're ending up with points on the board any way that you can. There's some guys to look out for, though, that are going to be interesting. Brian Robinson is a sophomore quarterback. He's going to be competing for quarterback. Looks like he might have a good shot at it as well with Christian Storrs no longer there. Jamal Henderson's going to be interesting on that offensive line, as well as Craig Kern, Benny Ortiz. You got and Malachi Taylor too. Malichi Taylor, excuse me. Also, so 4 very good offensive linemen. I think they're all juniors too. You got some pieces here, and then you also have Dylan Henderson, excuse me. Running back, sophomore running back that looks to have a lot of promise. They have 6 returning starters last year. A lot of them were sophomores and freshmen even too. It was a very young team, has another year of experience. I think they're still maybe a year away from taking a huge step, but I expect a step from Campbell Memorial this year on offense.
I promise you, Campbell has the playmakers to make offense score a lot more than 10 points a game. I'll tell you that much.
And it starts and ends with that offensive line, too. They have the protection up front. An offensive line that's going to give them some time, give the quarterback some time to throw and create holes for the running back, Dylan Henderson. It's just, can they convert those when they get in the red zone within that 20 yards? Can they convert it into touchdowns and not be held up there?
Situational football is going to be so important. And we talk about situational hitting in baseball, but situational football can really break a young team, and they're still going to be overall pretty young. A lot of sophomores and juniors, more experience than last year, but still they're going to have to lean on their seniors and their juniors to really lead that team, not just emotionally, but also lead them by example and set that standard. So the playmakers that are returning sophomores or the incoming freshmen can really step up and understand what it takes to succeed.
Yeah, and I mean, Dylan Henderson, a type of guy, too, averaged just over, I think, 4 yards a carry last year, too, just under 5, about 4.5 yards per carry. And so I mean, that's a guy, too, that's just going to wear down a defense. And you expect that average to go up a little bit more with the offensive line getting another year of experience under their belt. He's just a guy that's just going to wear down that defensive line as it goes on. And then by the 3rd, 4th quarter, you're going to see that defensive line maybe not make a tackle that they need to, or maybe miss an assignment that they were supposed to get, and all it takes too is just getting that guy that's just going to keep on consistently pounding through the line, going on the outside when they're not expecting it. And I think that's what is interesting and intriguing about Campbell Memorial this year.
If the defense misses one gap, Henderson's gone.
Yeah. And I mean, looking at Memorial's defense too, and this is what's interesting because they got 4 returning starters on it. Dylan Henderson plays defensive back. Jamal Henderson plays linebacker. Michael Henderson plays defensive line. And Malichi Taylor plays.
Family is strong in Camel.
And Malichi plays linebacker. So they have some pieces too on defense. It's a defense that was allowing over 30 a game last year, and a lot of that came from those turnovers too. And a little bit came from it too, where they would go for it, 4th down situation, goal line, trying to get that touchdown, they turn the ball over, and immediately the other team is able to get it down the field and score. It was just more possession time that went into the other team's favor because turnovers like that, because you're trying to score 4 scores in. But this is still a defense in Campbell Memorial that could compete with some of the best of them and create turnovers too. We talked about it defensive back wise. They have some good linebackers in Jamal Henderson and Malichi Taylor, Michael Henderson up front, Dylan Henderson in the defensive backfield in the secondary. I mean, they got pieces everywhere to build around. They got essentially team captains all over the defensive field to kind of go to and say, that's your guy to talk to. That's the guy. That's your captain of the linebackers. That's your defensive line captain, your secondary captain. I mean, you could basically have your leaders set up for your defense going forward. And these are good guys that played both sides of the ball, found success at a very young age. A lot of them were sophomores and freshmen even going into this year, and they're going to just help those younger guys also progress as they progress themselves.
I really like Campbell's secondary. I really like their ability to get off the ball. They don't get beat one-on-one too often. They're so athletic. And once again, like a lot of the other positions in Campbell, 1 year of experience equals learning more and more. I really like their secondary. I don't think it's going to be really easy to air it out against the Red Devils.
No, I don't think so either. I think a lot of teams are going to definitely be cautious of the Hendersons all over the place defensively, but especially a linebacker and defensive back wise, because I mean their linebackers can play the pass pretty well as well. It's going to be interesting to see what Campbell comes with, and if they take that next step with a year of experience under their belt now. I'm looking for them to take that next step.
Let's dive into Campbell's schedule and some of the games that are going to be important for them in the 2021 season.
Going through Campbell's schedule, starting off August 20th, they're home versus Valley Christian. 27th, they're at Lowville. Starting at September 3rd, they're home versus East Palestine. September 10th at Crestview. 17th at Brookfield. 24th, home versus Liberty. October 1st, home versus Garrettsville Garfield. 8th at Champion. 15th, home versus Newton Falls. And 22nd at LeBray. And I mean, looking at this schedule, Newton Falls is going to be, I think, a pretty big game towards the end of the season, October 15th. But I'm really looking at that September 24th, week 6 game against Liberty, because I think that's going to be the game. These are the 2 teams that I think are going to be making steps this season. That might determine who might have a shot at the playoffs come the end of the season, and who might be out of contention, or who might have a longer road or a taller task ahead of them if they lose that September 24th game.
Yeah, and games in September can come down to how well you prepared in the summer. I mean, the first 3 games, and all of a sudden you're into September. September 24th, I know it's technically the end of September, but at the same time, that can really be an important month of the season for a team.
Especially that end of September, right before you get into October, where it can be cold. Sometimes it's not, but I mean, we've seen snow in October before too. So, I mean, it's really that last time too, that end of September, early October, where you really get that warmer weather and you really feel more comfortable passing the ball a lot more, and you don't have to deal with the weather aspect as much. You typically see teams go with a little bit more running approach. Even the passing teams run the ball a little bit more come late October, middle October months. But yeah, looking at that Liberty game for Liberty and Campbell Memorial, it's definitely, I think, going to be a game that both teams look at and say, if we win this game, we might have a good shot at making the playoffs.
2 teams that are going to be really close in the standings. We expect them to have the same kind of projection. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do going up against each other, because whoever wins that game is going to have separation with the other one.
Absolutely. And like I said, playoff implications could be on the line come that time too. Middle of the season could be a big game. We don't know how teams are going to be shaping out. But looking at the schedule before that Liberty game, I mean, Valley Christian, Lowville, East Palestine, Crestview, Brookfield, up and down with that schedule. You got some really tough games. You have some games that are going to be competitive and games that can be winnable for you. But there's going to be some tall tasks there. Crestview and Brookfield before that Liberty game.
You open the MVAC with Crestview, Brookfield.
Yeah.
Top two teams.
Top two back to back. But I mean, if anything, if you could try to take a positive from that, you hope that competing up against those higher up teams get you ready for that Liberty game, because you know that Liberty game is going to be big. And who knows? I mean, if Crestview or Brookfield isn't on their best days, you might be able to sneak a game away and pull off an upset.
I'd honestly rather see them earlier in the season than late. Like, I would not want to play Brookfield, Crestview, LeBray in those stretch of games in the weeks 8, 9, and 10, because then they are really gearing for the playoffs and they're up and they've fixed all their kinks and they're ready to go. I'd rather see them in week 4 or 5, to be honest.
I think Campbell Memorial has the best first 5 games of the schedule as far as they will know exactly where they stand come that big Liberty game. I think they will know exactly how the season looks out. They'll have that blueprint for them. They know going into the next few games, you got Liberty, Garrettsville, Garfield, Champion, Newton Falls, LeBray. You know what's ahead of you. You know there's going to be some competition, but you're going to know wins, losses wise. If I win this game against Liberty, the 6th game of the season, where am I going to be sitting at? Am I 4-2? Am I 3-3? Am I 2-4? Where am I going to be at wins, loss wise, and give you that kind of that blueprint and that map for the rest of the season and how you want to go about it.
Yeah, and when I look at Camel, I really think they're going to have something to say, especially, they're going to be a team that can really throw a monkey wrench into this MVAC and maybe beat some teams that might look over them a little bit and think that they're going to be stepping over the Sunday paper, but it's not going to be that this year. And Camel might surprise some people with some upset wins this year.
Yeah, and like I said too, that Brookfield and Crestview game, those are 2 games where if Crestview and Brookfield aren't having their best day or there's some unfortunate turnovers in the game, Memorial can take advantage of that and they could pull off an upset.
If they split those 2, they'll be sitting really pretty going into that Liberty game.
You would think too, with the way that plays out, you would think if you split one of those 2, you're looking at it. You would think 3 wins, 2 to 3 wins at the very least. You would think around that time. So yeah, that Liberty game would be interesting. But again, we don't know until we start seeing what these teams are showcasing. Anybody can beat anyone on any given Friday night in Ohio. So
yeah, it's any given Friday. Instead of Al Pacino, it's starring me and Ty.
Yeah, it's Anthony and Ty.
Oh my gosh! Instead of Chris Rock and Al Pacino, it's Anthony and Ty Bartel doing anything any given Friday.
The knockoff B movie.
We fight for that itch.
But yeah, looking at that, I think Campbell Memorial is definitely going to be a fun team to watch this year.
We'll take a quick timeout. Be back with more MVAC football next on the Running Point, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown.
No matter what the weather, be prepared with a reliable, efficient Rude gas furnace or air conditioner from MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning. Call your energy efficient expert, MP Vivo, today for a free estimate.
Here at MP Vivo, we rely on Rude, and so should you.
It's storm season.
I think we're under the gun for some heavy storms over the next couple of hours.
And Storm Tracker 21 is ready.
This is probably the one we're keeping a closer eye on.
On air.
And locally, we're going to have a lot of eyes on our area.
Online.
All right, let's talk high-risk futurecast and the timing of this weather.
On social media and on our app.
Rain will come and go tomorrow. There'll be some dry intervals.
Stay ready with Storm Tracker 21.
A severe weather threat now through around sunset this evening.
Myers Family Insurance knows the importance of a great team.
Our team continues to grow to help you with your Medicare and retirement needs.
The annual election period is October 15th through December 7th. Now's the time to make sure your plan continues to meet your needs for the upcoming year.
Call today.
60 years ago, Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods began with 3 siblings, a hand-set sawmill, and a few local orders. And while business has certainly changed over the years, what has not are our principles of hard work, craftsmanship, and commitment to quality. At Baird Brothers, we're proud to put our name on the products we create, from moldings and doors to flooring and lumber. Thank you for 60 great years. We look forward to 60 more. Baird Brothers, for the place you love.
Welcome back to the Thursday edition of Running Point, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. Anthony Hartwig alongside Ty Bartell. We want to remind you guys that the comments section is live on whatever platform you're watching, whether it be Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. You can comment and we'll put it up. The fan line also live, brought to you by MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning, 330-886-0813. Give us a call. We would love to hear from you. I'm kind of jealous today because DJ keeps sending us texts in the group message about what he's doing down in Canton and some of the people he's seen. He's already name dropped Thurman Thomas, Emmett Smith. Let me look real quick because there was another one on the text. And Marshall Falk are some of the people he's already seen. Not fair. We're stuck in the studio.
No, not fair. Wish they'd come here. We'll make a protest for them to come here instead. We'll have the Hall of Fame game played right in the YSN parking lot.
Look at Matt Seidel tuning in. He's ready for the MVAC day.
He's gonna have to tune in tomorrow too. We're gonna be talking about that Scarlet Tier division too. I know that's the one he's a little bit more interested in.
Yeah, don't tell him we'll lose his viewership as soon as he knows it's not his tier.
Oh, yeah, we'll lose Matt Seidel. He won't watch the company he works for show.
He's gone.
Yeah, there he goes. Matt's done. But
tomorrow, we're gonna be getting comments galore tomorrow.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We have already previewed Crestview. We've previewed Brookfield. We previewed Camel. Help me out. Is that what we got?
We did Crestview, Brookfield,
LeBray,
and Camel. Yep.
It's a Thursday. We're wearing down my mind. So we've done that for now. We venture on to another team that we talked about with Camel that's going to be right there looking for an upswing in Liberty. The Leopards under a new head coach. What kind of things do you expect from the Leopards this year and another young team that should be on the upswing?
Yeah, I mean, the Leopards, like you said, they're another team that we're expecting to be pretty interesting this year. Players that they lost last year was Carter Coleman. But, I mean, there's players to watch in Antoine Brown, C.J. Myers, Landon Charles, LeBraylon Wilson, excuse me. But these are some very good, young, talented players. Looking at their offense this year, Liberty is a team that they average 15 points a game. So just over 2 touchdowns last season. An offense that you want to get a little bit more. They got Chris Cunningham coming back, like we said, on running back. Derek DeMata is going to be quarterback. DeAndre Venners is also going to be competing for quarterback as well. Dante Venners is just a phenomenal athlete for them. It's a team, though, that was a huge rushing team last year. A huge team that was a ground and pound team, and you expect the same thing with Chris Cunningham coming back this year. They're going to be utilizing him a lot, trying to just get a little bit more offensive points on the board. I mean, like we said, averaging 15, you want to try to get that number more into the range of like the 20s, 21s. You want to try to get maybe and convert a field goal into a touchdown and get those averages up. But I think if you bump that average up a little bit, average scoring points per game for Liberty, they're going to be sitting real pretty as far as the wins-loss record at the end of the season.
Yeah, when you talk about Liberty and you talk about the new coach, Joe Simon, and some of the things that he'll bring to this team, I think his culture and his ability to, I mean, you follow Liberty football on Twitter. Football. My mind is a Thursday. You follow Liberty football on Twitter, you know that their social media presence is big, and I've said it before. I think with a young team, especially when you're trying to instill culture, if you can get a social media presence up and you're tweeting out when kids are doing really well, you're tweeting out videos from the weight room, you're making cool graphics for their schedule, they buy into that a little bit. They really get going when they can really interact and engage with their program on a platform that they're really familiar with in social media. So I think he's bringing a new energy to this young team, and they're returning so much. I think Liberty really exciting this year.
Especially too with Derek Nemata playing quarterback too. He split a lot of time last year, so didn't get a lot of starts. It looks like from the time being, it looks like they're putting him into that starter role this year. So he's going to have chains loose. It's not splitting snaps anymore. It looks like he's going to have a lot more snaps this year. I don't know if he's going to get all the snaps, but it looks like he's going to be in a lot more of a starting role. I don't know if they've gotten a solid thing on that yet, but whether it's quarterback or whether it's in the offense, you expect Amata to be involved somewhat in a starting role. As I think DeAndre Venters is the other one, like I talked about too, a quarterback that is going to be competing there. The senior older quarterback in Venters, and then the junior Demata are going to be competing. But I expect both of them to be incorporated in the offense for a lot more snaps this year, and I don't think there's going to be as many split snaps for Demata. He's going to get a lot more snaps this year.
And that's a misnomer because we say they're not returning starters per se, but they're returning in game experience, and that can be so important. And that can be kind of misleading when someone's looking at Liberty's breakdown and saying, oh, they're not returning a lot of starters, but they're returning a lot of people with game experience, and that's almost just as important when you're talking about a young team. Coach Seidel chiming in and echoing how important social media is into building a program. He runs a great social media for his guys as well. Great graphics, by the way, and I don't know where he got them. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I think he got them by Graphics by Quinn a little bit, maybe. I don't want to spoil anything. Maybe Graphics by Quinn, and it looked oddly familiar. But,
yeah, a little bit.
But when you talk about Liberty's defense, talk about who they're returning and some of the things to look forward to the Leopards' defense.
Well, it looks like as far as defense is concerned, what we want to see is Liberty allowed 31.5 points per game. Allowing all those points and saying that the one highlight about Liberty's defense last year was the takeaways. 4 interceptions, 8 fumble recoveries last year. They're a team that was creating turnovers very effectively for the Leopards last year. It was just converting those turnovers into points and then allowing the other team to score on the other side of it. But as far as Liberty is concerned this year, they have the pieces, I think, to create those turnovers again. The defensive line looks to be really good this year. They're returning a lot of them. Zach James, LeBraylon Wilson, Tremendous Watson, all on the defensive line. Dante Venters is also a linebacker, senior linebacker for them. But 3 defensive linemen coming back from last year, all seniors, all bigger set dudes. Part of the reason why they had 8 fumble recoveries in 2020 as well.
One of the things I love about their defense, they forced a lot of turnovers last year. Like, go get the ball.
Yeah, absolutely. And like we said, too, it was a team that allowed a lot of points last year, but they were slugfest, too, and they probably could have been in a lot more games had they converted those turnovers into points. And I think that's the biggest thing is converting turnovers into points into this season and just creating defense into offense. And, I mean, the defense got them in position and gave them opportunities to have extra possessions and scoring. It was just a younger offense that was trying to learn the ropes, learn the scheme. I think you're going to see a lot more efficiency from that offense. And I don't think you're going to see them pass up as many opportunities if they get these takeaways this year.
That's one of the things. I mean, they might not have been. They might have been allowing more points than they would want, but they were just playmakers on that defense that would just make plays. I mean, sometimes defenses aren't exactly great when it comes to yards given up or statistics. But you look at some defenses, they just have playmakers. They just have people that are able to just go out there, find the ball, make some plays for you. So you're not tightening all the screws, at least. I mean, you have people that are able to go out and make the big plays. Now you just have to kind of tighten it up a little bit and give up less points, less yards.
Especially, too, and I mean, with a team that had such a good defensive line last year that was still very experienced, all juniors, in the backfield secondary, very, very young last year. And, I mean, we see the teams around your Brookfields, your LeBrays, your Crestviews of the world, all teams that love throwing the football, especially your LeBrays and your Crestviews that will throw the ball a lot too, that they did last year. And we saw Liberty kind of had to go all or nothing on that, and they did. They went either turnover or touchdown, it seemed like, with their defensive plays. And sometimes it worked out, sometimes it didn't. But I expect that secondary too, having that year of experience now under the belt, seeing a lot of these really good passing offenses that are in their division, I expect them to maybe not miss that coverage as much anymore and stay more man-to-man and make those tackles in the open field a lot more this year.
Can we also just say the turf at Liberty is just phenomenal, and watching one of them, like, there are a lot of turf fields that look great on YSN when we got to do video last year, but turning on a Liberty game, maybe it was the angle the press box was on, maybe it was the color, I don't know, but I loved watching the broadcast from Liberty because that turf just looks immaculate. And once again, I mean, South Range grad, I like the colors.
Yeah, the color scheme, of course, you're going to like that, too. the big old leopard paw in the middle, I'm sure, too. But no, yeah, it is a beautiful field, too. And it's beautiful to see a lot of these schools turning to that turf field, too. So you don't have to worry about so much about the weather being a factor as far as the grass fields were concerned. We're seeing baseball fields turn to turf now, too. Interesting, too. Some people like it. Some people hate it. There is definitely pros and cons to having both for sure, but it is definitely beautiful turf field. And that's one thing I'll say about the turf fields is they're a lot easier to maintain and they're a lot easier to make look very nice. But I mean, Liberty, no slouch in making sure that turf field was put up the right way because it looks beautiful over there.
Now, when you talk about Liberty's schedule and some of the teams that they'll be welcoming into that nice turf field, what are some of the games that we circle to kind of say these are the games that are going to mean a lot for Liberty going forward?
Looking at Liberty's schedule, they open up the season home versus Western Reserve on August 20th. On August 27th, home versus Girard. September 3rd at Lakeview. 10th at Brookfield. 17th at Crestview. 24th at Campbell Memorial. October 1st, home versus Champion. 8th at Newton Falls. 15th, home versus LeBray. And 22nd, home versus Garrettsville Garfield. We know that the gray tier division is no slouch. Every team's going to have to play the same 7 teams in the gray tier. And it's very much like the NE8. The first 3 games are going to be their non-conference games before they start in the conference. Looking at the non-conference first in Western Reserve, Girard, and Lakeview, favorable schedule, I'd say, though, in those first 3 non-conference games, I'd say, for Liberty.
Yeah, and in Girard and Lakeview, those are both up division schools. So when we talk about computer points, you get those wins, you're going to get the bonus for going up a division.
And I mean, those are 2 teams too, Lakeview and Girard, where we expect to be right around the same thing with Liberty, making that next step. So they're going to be competitive games, but definitely winnable games for the Leopards. They can come out of this looking 2-3 or even 3-0.
I'm excited for that opener, though, bringing in Western Reserve. And we talked about them when we were talking about Brookfield, because Brookfield plays them as well. So when we were talking about Brookfield, then Western Reserve's a team that is going to be really interesting to see open the season in Liberty. And Western Reserve loves to run the ball. Remember last year's Springfield game where Western Reserve held the ball for like 18 minutes in that first half? They couldn't score with it, but they still possessed the ball. So they're going to come into Liberty, try to do the same thing. That's going to be an interesting week 1 matchup. A lot of interesting week 1 matchups. I can't wait for August 20th.
It's going to be an interesting week 1 matchup, especially. So you talked about how Western Reserve loves to run the ball. And I mean, like I said, too, all those defensive linemen that are returning for Liberty, running up the middle is not going to be easy for Western Reserve. So you might see a lot more outside runs, and it's going to come down to more linebackers in the secondary than for Liberty, but definitely going to be an interesting game.
Can you imagine? I think Altier comes into the huddle for Western Reserve. He goes, "All right, guys, we're gonna run up the middle." And the running back's just like, "Up the middle? You can't run up the middle. That's up the middle."
You got 3 bona fide Leopards that are sitting up the middle, ready to attack you as soon as you try to run up the. I mean, geez, oh man, the Liberty's defense too, and I mean, you got to be excited for that, having 3 great, just fantastic defensive linemen up front that are going to be intimidating to quarterbacks and running backs that are going to try to run on them.
Yeah. So Altier, the running back, he's going to be like, "Hey, what do you mean I'm running up the middle against Liberty? Let's get me outside. Try to use my speed a little bit. I don't want to run up the middle against those evergreen trees in the Liberty's defensive line."
I will say the MVAC not shy of battles in the trenches this year, as they never usually are. But I mean, this year too, there's going to be a lot of battles throughout the trenches in a lot of games. I mean, offensive lines and defensive lines, it seems like all over the MVAC are just powerhouses.
When I talk about conference games that are going to be fun to watch for Liberty and ones that are going to be very interesting, I got to say, I mean, we already talked about them going up against Camel. I think Liberty versus Champion is going to be a really fun game to watch.
I think it will too. I think with Champion being a very, very solid team last year and looking to be pretty solid this year as well, I think Liberty is going to be a team that it's going to be a game where too October 1st, towards the end of the season, Liberty might be right around that 500 mark, maybe a game under, maybe a game over, or somewhat like that, right around that. And that could be a game that really boosts you and gets you that playoff spot or gets you in a great position to make the playoffs if you come away victorious at Champion.
Yeah, and Champion, another team with a new head coach, and we'll talk about them a little bit later in the program. We'll dive into the flashes. But that'll be two teams going up against each other with a new era of coaching staffs. And who's going to be putting their best foot forward, I think that's going to make that game really interesting.
Absolutely. And I mean, all over the MVAC, I mean, we're seeing coaches that have come in and out, but I mean, great programs all over the MVAC and a lot of talent all over both the Scarlet and Gray division. So it's going to be fun games to watch all over.
And Champion have been taking steps up last year. I know everyone got in the playoffs, but they probably would have gotten the playoffs last year anyway. They couldn't play in the playoffs because of COVID. It was really unfortunate. But they were granted a playoff spot, and it would have been their first playoff spot since, I believe, 1997. So on the rise, they beat Crestview, and once again, Champions a team, even though they're under new management, definitely going to be one of the ones that are going to be thorns in the side of everyone in the conference.
Yeah, let's talk about Champion while we're already on it. Let's dive right into it.
But first, for Liberty fans watching, I want to remind them that next Wednesday, we have a special guest coming on Running Point, and it is going to be Keith Forstall, who was a member of the 2004 Liberty team that went to the regional finals. And he spoke to the team a couple of weeks ago and gave them a very good preseason speech. So we're going to talk to him next Wednesday at 12:30 on Running Point. Don't miss it. One of the legends of Liberty football joining us on Running Point next Wednesday. So I just want to throw that out there as a tease for Liberty fans watching. Once again, we're talking to Keith Forstall next Wednesday. So as we go into Champion, let's talk about the Golden Flashes.
Yeah, I mean, the Golden Flashes are another team, too, returning 8 starters this year. So they're coming back with the same team that was so solid last year. Like you said, Anthony, that probably should have made the playoffs, and COVID kind of prevented them from doing so. But looking at this team, I mean, some big guys that to look for. Well, first, let's go through the guys that they lost. Zach Scherer was an offensive lineman that's no longer there. Austin Wilforth, running back, that's no longer there. And Noah Vasey, the quarterback that was previous for Champion, no longer there. So a new quarterback situation. Looking into the returners, Logan Easterday, an offensive lineman, Levi Grimes, an offensive lineman, 2 big offensive linemen that are going to be huge for protection of Keegan McDermott, who looks to be the senior running back this year for the Flashes. Keegan McDermott, you got to see a little bit of him last year, Anthony. I know you did doing an Audible Call, helping out with Audible Call. I know you seem to have called this guy's name a lot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Actually, what was great about the Audible Call, we just got to hear their announcers call that name a lot because we just would turn them up and it'd be, we got to. That's one of the what I love about Audible Call is we get to hear you and we get to hear Richie, we get to hear DJ, all the wonderful broadcasters. Mike doesn't have to talk too much. We just kind of turn him down, turn up the announcers, and they get to call out the names.
Yep. And the interesting part about Champion this season, we were just on Liberty. It was I don't know why I wanted to say Liberty. The thing about Champion this season, new quarterback, and it looks to be Joey Fell is what they're going with. Joey Fell, phenomenal athlete, kind of played all around the field last year for Champion. Had sometimes at quarterback. I think he threw a few times last year, but not a whole lot as he's coming into, I believe it's his junior year. this year. So stepping into the quarterback role, was a sophomore last year, got some playing time around the field at other positions, which could be very beneficial that he knows how the other positions work. He's been there. Hands and feet, like feet were there, hands on. He knows.
He's dramatic about it. He's been there.
Yeah, he's been there. Running wise, he had rushes, he had running attempts, he had catching attempts, he had receptions, he had rushing attempts. Like I said, so he did everything for Champion last year. Now he's going to be under center with some very good offensive linemen in front of him and a very good running back next to him. He's going to have a pretty good offensive foundation in front of him. It's basically his show to make happen.
Yeah, new coach Tom Conrad is going to be coming in from Southington, and he's going to be looking at that in his toy chest and saying, I got a pretty good starting point there. I think I can build around this. And when you look at their defense, though, and what Coach Conrad is going to have to look at for what their defense is going to look like this year, what kind of things do you see?
I mean, Champion was one of the better defensive teams in the area, held teams to just about, I think, 21 a game last year. They're returning, I think, a half a dozen starters. Among some of those half dozen starters, Keegan McDermott plays both running back and linebacker. Jack O'Shaughnessy, defensive back. Mason Sabo, another defensive back. Connor McDermott's a linebacker. And then Levi Grimes, yeah, he plays defensive line as well. So, I mean, you're looking at these guys that really good defensive back, really good secondaries, and really good second line of defense in the linebackers too for this Champion team. And it's part of what made that defense so good last year. But now it's a lot of those juniors last year are seniors this year, and it's going to be a very good defense, I expect, again this year.
And we've talked about a lot of high-flying offenses in the MVAC already. They're going to be in for a rude awakening when they come into a Champion game, and they might not score 35, 40 points against this Champion team that, like you said, averaged 21 a game given up last year. Especially the teams that like to throw the ball, their defensive secondary, not like most teams. I mean, we've been talking teams all week that are trying to have young secondaries learn what it takes. Champion, not young secondary at all. They've been there, they've done that, and they're going to be coming into a very experienced defense. Secondary is going to be hard to throw against this Champion team.
And I mean, honestly, talk about if there's even a little bit of improvement in that defense that already was really good. Say they average under 20, 19 points per game. Not many teams are beating this Champion Flashes team, scoring less than 3 touchdowns against them. I'm sorry, they're just not. And that's going to be the strength Champion's going to be putting on their back this year is that defense. They're going to get their points, sure. They might not blow you out of the water like other teams do where they're going to put up 45, 50 points, but no, they're going to be content. They're going to get their 28, 30 points, and they're just going to hold you, and they're going to prevent you from scoring and entering the end zone from there on out. And it's going to be very hard for teams to score against this Champion team, and they're really going to have to get creative, I think, against the Flashes.
I think the question for Champion is going to be, can they get their offense in rhythm? I mean, you know, that was one of the things that kind of scoring offense held them back in the times that they lost last year. So can they get their offense in rhythm? Can they make enough big plays to give that defense some relief of pressure?
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right in looking at that. I mean, the defense is going to give you the opportunities, and it's going to give you a chance to win the game. The offense just needs to go out and win it.
Especially big plays. I said big plays for Champion are going to be huge because when you have a strong defense and your offense goes out, breaks a 60-yard run or hits a 70-yard pass, when you score quickly and you have a good defense, that 7 points feels like it's about 14 or 21 real quick, because then the other team's eyes open up and they go, wow, this team can score quick and they're kicking our butts on defense. We're in a hole, guys. Let's try to dig out of it. And you can get really intimidated by Champion if they can get some big plays on you real quick.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, we look at time of possession a lot too. Sometimes it doesn't tell the whole story. Sometimes if the other team, your opponent has the time of possession up and you don't, it doesn't always tell the whole story, because that could say that you were holding them on defense. They were doing long drives, but they couldn't get anywhere with you either.
And talk about Champion's schedule too, and what they have coming forward, and what are the games that they're going to be circling to try to get into the playoffs again.
Before we go into the conference, I'll go into the non-conference because it's the same thing. They do the 3 games that are non-conference. So August 20th, home versus Warren JFK, 27th at Rootstown, and September 3rd at Southeast. I had a chance to see this Southeast team last year, and I mean, very, very good team, solid defense. It's going to be an interesting game for Champion. That's going to be a battle of the defenses. But I mean, that Warren JFK game, I think, is another interesting one that without Cam Hollabaugh there now, kind of levels the playing field, you think, too, with Champion and JFK.
You call the playoff game with Southeast, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so. Yeah, I think they were in. Yeah,
on that blue turf.
I believe so. Yeah, up in.
Yeah.
But
Southeast isn't talked about nearly as much as they should be. When it comes to
and
football.
I mean they are a very, very good team, and I mean it's going to be interesting to see that matchup because it's going to be I think it's going to be a good matchup too, good defensive matchup.
Garfield's going to come into the conference and tell a lot of stories about Southeast because Garfield's been dealing with Southeast for a while. They've been 1-2 in that conference for a long time. So Garfield's going to come into the MVAC and be like, I got some campfire stories for you.
Speaking of which, too, into the conference play, September 10th starts at Newton Falls, 17th versus LeBray at home, 24th at Garrettsville Garfield, October 1st at Liberty, October 8th versus Campbell Memorial at home, 15th at Crestview, 22nd home versus Brookfield. So pretty consistent after once they start play in conference, it's home away usually, with the exception of the 24th and the October 1st are back-to-back away games.
There's one game that just is blaring out on that schedule that you gotta look at, and that's the Crestview game because they beat Crestview last year. It was the only loss for the Rebels in the conference, and of course Crestview's going to be coming into that game hot and fired up, and it's in Crestview. Going to be a big challenge for Champion to pull off that win.
It is, and I mean, too, you look at the story with Crestview, a lot of guys that seniored out and are no longer with the team. So it's a little bit younger team that has to come back and try to just fill in those holes, and you might be able to catch them, too. I mean, end of the season, we'll know what kind of team Crestview has then by that time. They should have all their holes figured out. This should be a complete team, as should Champion. And we both know the defenses of Crestview and Champion are pretty solid as well. So that should be a pretty good game.
Yeah, I think so. I think it'll be like last year. It was a monsoon in week 1. It was one of the only games that didn't get in a lightning delay. It just rained really hard. It turned into a mud bowl. It turned into a sloppy game. Champion came out on top. I feel like hopefully the weather won't be a factor this time, and we'll just see both teams at full strength and both teams run on full cylinders, hopefully on a dry day. Even if it's not a dry day, they got that turf field that's going to not make it it's not going to be muddy turning up the waters in Crestview with that new turf field.
Absolutely not. And I mean, with the defense that you have there too, providing that there is bad weather for Champion, they're set up well for it too. They have great defensive backs that could tackle, great linebackers. So if it does turn into a rain game where it's ground and pound, the advantage is typically going to go in Champion's favor, I think.
Yeah, and another league game that I'm interested to see how Champion handles the new kids on the block in Garfield, how they step up, because we've been talking about how Crestview's going to handle Garfield. We've been talking about how Brookfield's going to handle Garfield, but Champion's kind of sitting there like, let's see how we handle Garfield too. So Champion against Garfield is going to be another interesting matchup that Garfield brings to the MVAC.
Especially too, because I mean it's gonna force Champion into having to score points. Because I mean the defense is gonna be good, but we know Garrettsville Garfield is gonna get a punch or two on Champion. They're gonna score points. It's inevitable with how good Garrettsville is that they're gonna put points on the board. It's just a matter of how much can you contain them, how much can you limit them to, and can Champion score in that game? Can they turn those defensive stops into offense? And if they can, I think Champion has a great chance at winning that game. But new kids on the block, man, they're here to show us what they got and show the whole YSN world what Garrettsville Garfield has to offer.
You know what might sneakily come into play in that game? Field position.
Easily too. I mean,
if you make Garfield consistently go 80 yards for a touchdown and making them start deep in their own territory, then against that Champion defense, that might be a big key trying to, even if you don't finish the drive, try to get a couple of first downs and punt and make sure Garfield starts the ball deep in their own territory.
I mean, yeah, talk about wearing a team down. If you're making them go, like you said, 80 yards to score, you do that 2 or 3 times. The running backs, the offensive linemen, they start to feel it too, going on those long drives that are plus 5 minutes sometimes too. Like it can beat up on an offense too. So, yeah, and I think that's Champion's pretty much MO is force them into those long drives because that's what Champion did a lot last year. They wore teams down, and by the third and fourth quarter, these teams that were up on Champion looked like completely different teams and seemingly couldn't find any sort of offense against them.
In Garfield, those are the new kids on the block. We'll talk about those new kids on the block next on Running Point, along with Newton Falls to finish up the MVAC gray tier. Don't go anywhere. Running Point on YSN brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austin Town.
Hi, everyone. This is DJ Yoakley with Your Sports Network. We appreciate your support of YSN and welcome you to the YSN family. Our broadcast streams are brought to you live at no cost to you by sponsors that are local to this community. Without the vision and generosity of our sponsors and partners, we would not be able to bring this game to you today. So please support the great businesses and leaders that are making this game possible. And if you're a business in need of great advertising and sponsorship opportunities, feel free to head over to our site for more information on the right fit for you. We are local, we are loyal, and we are live. We are YSN.
News doesn't stop after the sun goes down. Sometimes you just have to hustle to get it. At 21 News, no matter how far it is, no matter what it takes to get there, we're working to bring you the best stories and the freshest content at 11 p.m. with the context and clarity that makes it worth staying up for, no matter what time it is. 21 News at 11 with me, Aaron Simonek, and Derek Steyer.
21 News at 11, news that's worth your time.
WRS Wealth Advisors is the area's premier wealth and retirement specialist. With our combined 70 years experience and comprehensive wealth strategy, we assist our clients attain their goals. Call 330-965-0370 to learn more about our individual and corporate financial planning services, or visit wrswealthadvisors.com. Good luck, athletes.
The details. Baird Brothers Fine Hardwoods is one fine ride. Perfect cornering, superb handling, sporty and stylish, power to spare, plus awesome mileage. Yeah, jaw-droppingly beautiful lines and well appointed with luxurious trim. Put more oomph in your life and start beholding the molding. Find your home's fine hardwood at BairdBrothers.com.
Planning a project around your home or rental property? Trust the electrical service to the local experts with 62 years of serving the Mahoning Valley. Joe Dickey Electric is your local go-to source for responsive, reliable residential electrical work. From everyday maintenance and repairs to new installations, electrical upgrades, and safety inspections, no job is too big or too small. Call Joe Dickey Electric today, 800-549-3976, or visit DickeyElectric.com. That's DickeyElectric.com.
For heating, cooling, and indoor air quality, the Mahoning Valley trusts MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning, offering worry-free repair, service, and installation. Call MP Vivo today for a free estimate.
MP Vivo Heating and Air Conditioning. We're your energy-efficient experts.
Attention, current lessees of most makes and models. Tri-State Ford has a special offer for you. Come to Tri-State Ford, turn in your lease early, and get up to $2,500 in trade equity toward a new Ford or pre-owned vehicle. Plus, our exclusive Tri-State Ford Advantage includes a 10-year, 200,000-mile warranty. Early lease turn-in for most makes and models with up to $2,500 trade equity.
Customer focus, community driven. Tri-State Ford East Liverpool or visit tristateford.net.
Welcome back to Running Point, Thursday edition. Today is August 5th, 2021. I'm joined by Ty Bartell. I'm live in the G. Burbick Farm Studios. Ty live in, I don't know,
prison. That's what they say on running or on Power Hour all the time.
You get a little glimpse of a closet or something over there. So
little bit, yeah.
So that blank white wall, man, looked like you were in Alcatraz a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll eventually get decorations or a wall with decorations at some point.
We need to get you a YSN banner back there.
Yeah. Honestly, I need a flag. That's what I need. I just need a flag behind me.
Brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austin Town. Want to let you know that the comments are live on the break. James Bartell putting nothing up. I don't know if he tried to type something and it just didn't go up or what. But if James is trying to say something important, hopefully he'll retype it.
Yeah. Probably just tried to post a GIF or something.
I know, man. He's always popping in with good stuff. Let's move along with our MVAC gray tier preview. We got the new kids on the block. Garrettsville Garfield looking to shake things up and bring a storm into the MVAC. What do you got on Garfield, Ty?
I mean, this is the team that beat that Warren JFK team last year that went to state. It's a team that was 9-1 last year, and it's a team that's returning a lot of starters. Looking at Garfield, they were a team that averaged over 30 points scored per game last season. Another one of those teams that are in the great division of the MVAC, returning a lot of starters. Guys to highlight: Anthony Dema, the senior running back that looks to be so good for the Garfield offense this year. Riley Laporte, offensive lineman. Austin Roman, another offensive lineman. Peyton Yancey, another offensive lineman. I mean, 3 big offensive linemen that are returning that are going to be huge for protection of both Dema as well as Ryan Stoller, another running back that they're going to be using. It's kind of a 2 running back tandem that they use over there in Garfield, I believe. And then Brody Swigonski, their quarterback, is coming back this year too. All seniors. So it's going to be a senior heavy team is Garrettsville Garfield. And it's going to be a team that is going to be very fun to watch, I think, on the offensive side of things.
Yeah, and one of the things that I remember about watching a couple of Garfield games last year when they would play YSN teams, man, were they good in the clutch? I mean, when they needed something or it was a big game in the moment, we'd bring back that Mooney playoff game. They came up with big time, plays when they needed it most. They're a team that has that standard of winning. They don't like losing at all. 9-1 last year. They just know how to win, and sometimes that's something that you just can't coach.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it helps too when you have offensive weapons like Dema, who had 1,300 plus yards last year rushing. I think that was most in the MVAC gray tier division, as well as guys like Swigonski, the quarterback, who had 9 touchdowns and 2 picks last year. Very efficient, doesn't turn the ball over that much. I mean, it's an offense that just runs like a well-oiled machine. They know where they need to be. Everyone knows their assignments. It's a very do your job type of offense.
Yeah, and do your job. That's a great analogy because, like I said, they're a team that knows the standard. They don't have to be told this is what we have to do to win. And I think that's one of the characteristics of a team like that. Everyone just does their job and trusts everyone else to do their job because they know everyone knows what the standard is. They don't have to worry about some guy on the offensive line being lazy or something. So that's why they can trust each other enough to just do their job, only their job, not worry about the guy next to them not doing his.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, going into Garfield's defense too, this was a team that allowed less than 20 points per game last season. And it's another one of those teams that scores high and holds you low. And I mean, it's pretty much all 2-way players. So all the guys you heard me talk about on offense, you're going to hear me talk about on defense. Some other guys to highlight, though, that are on defense. Dema plays both running back and defensive back. Jesse Grace is a linebacker for them, junior linebacker. John Hunza is a senior linebacker for them. And then, of course, Laporte plays both offensive line and defensive line. And then their quarterback, Swigonski, plays both quarterback and defensive back. But a very good secondary, as you see, very good linebackers, a good defensive line. They have pieces all over. 7 returning starters on defense. So you're looking at pretty much the same team as last year. Little bit of holes, but holes that I think Coach Moser feels like he could fill pretty well with the team he has behind him because he has great depth as well.
Yeah, there are no spots in that defense where you say, well, we can really expose this part, or we can really attack this cornerback or what have you. They're just going to be solid on offense, solid on defense. maybe not doing one thing exceptionally great, but doing everything well. And when you do everything well, sometimes that's better than doing one or two things great.
If this defense improves even a little bit on what they did, you're talking about a top 5 defense in the area easily. Because I mean, if this team averages even less than 19 points a game, I mean, you're talking almost in the neighborhood of allowing just 2 scores a game. And I mean, that is almost impossible for any team to come back from if this team's averaging over 30.
The MVAC better be taking notes on these names because they might not know them now, but they're going to know some of these names really quick when they're starting to prepare for Garfield.
And I mean, to talk about it on the other side too and play a little bit of devil's advocate too, Garfield coming into a whole new division and whole new competition. They haven't seen the LeBrays, the Crestviews, and the Brookfields of the world as much. So getting to play all 3 of them now in a season is going to be interesting, which I guess will transition right into us looking at their schedule.
That's a professional segue right there, Ty. Good job.
But we're looking at it non-conference play. We're looking August 20th at Cardinal, 27th versus Lakeview, and September 3rd. They're getting that rematch against Warren JFK at Warren JFK, though, this year.
That's going to be a big one because JFK wants it,
And I mean, JFK as a team too, and I know we're gonna talk about them when we talk about all the independent schools and all the best of the rest schools that we have that aren't complete conferences. But Warren JFK is one of those teams. Yeah, you lose Cam Hollabaugh, which is a huge loss. We know all the records he holds for sports in that school, but that team knows they're pretty good. They went as a team to the state championship game, and they're kind of tired of everyone saying that was a one-man show because as good as Cam Hollabaugh was, and he is a phenomenal athlete, and we wish him all the best. We know what he's going to do great things at Walsh, but as far as what we're concerned with the team, JFK knows they're a solid team, and that's going to be a great game against Garrettsville Garfield.
And for those of you wondering, next week, to close out our football previews, we're going to have one show where it's the independents and the teams that are playing in conferences that we just don't have the whole conference. We're going to call them the best of the rest, and JFK is included in that. That'll be next week, the final day of our football previews to close out our wonderful football previews. And sometimes you finish with the best of the rest. I mean, let's go. So we're looking forward to that. And JFK is looking forward to Garfield coming into Mollenkopf Stadium.
Yeah, and then looking into conference play, they start out home versus LeBray, home versus Newton Falls, home versus Champion, at Campbell, home versus Crestview, at Brookfield, and at Liberty. Before I even circle a game on there too, I just want to say that favorable that almost all the big-time matchups are at home, though, for this Garfield team.
They get to come to a new league, and they don't have to travel too much. I mean, that's a rolling out the red carpet for Garfield in the MVAC scheduling department.
Absolutely. But if there is one away game I'm looking at, it's October 15th at Brookfield. Yeah. And it's a game where, like we said, this might be a 4-team. Heck, it might be a 6. It might even be an 8-team race trying to get that number one.
Week 1, it's definitely an 8-team race. We'll see what it is in week 5 and week 6. But
yeah, but I mean, we're talking now. That's week 9 too. So I mean, this might be. You're talking there might be a game that separates 3 or 4 teams here at this point, and you would like to think Brookfield and Garrettsville Garfield are both going to be 2 of those 4 teams we're talking about at the end of the season. Being at Brookfield is probably the testiest away game that they have on this season, where it's going to be hard to go into Brookfield and come out victorious.
And one of the home games, I mean, you can't talk about Crestview. You got to talk about that Crestview game. It's a rematch of the playoffs last year. Garfield's returning almost everyone. Crestview's losing a lot. Garfield's going to be maybe the most motivated team to win that game because all those players know that Crestview ended their season last year. They don't want a repeat of last year's playoff game to happen again.
No, and it's a home game sandwiched by 2 away games, Brookfield after Crestview, Campbell Memorial before Crestview. And we talked about both these teams already. Campbell Memorial is a team that could sneak a win on you if you're too focused and looking ahead on Crestview too much and not focused on Memorial. They're a team that could surprise you, especially them playing at home.
Is that Campbell game a trap game?
It could be. It could easily be. Looking at Crestview and Brookfield ahead, You're home versus Crestview and then at Brookfield. It could be easily, and then champion the week before, home versus champion the week before. You might think of that as a little light blip in your schedule, and you can't look at Campbell Memorial at that because they will make you pay.
Can't wait to talk to their coach. I'm wondering how, obviously in the media, he's going to be, we're taking every game seriously, but I wonder in the mindset of the young kids and trying to understand a teenager, don't try it. You'll get lost in the realm of their mind. How seriously they're going to take this new conference in every team in it. One of the wonders, and that's why I think Campbell might just be a trap game, because it's a brand new opponent, and they know all they know is what they did last year. How seriously is that team going to take Campbell? I don't know. I hope maybe they're mentally tough. Maybe they take every game seriously and they just roll right through. But maybe they're looking too far ahead to Crestview, and Campbell comes in, and like I said, team that can throw a monkey wrench into the conference, beating Garfield in that game, throws a big monkey wrench, because there's a chance Garfield either splits or drops the next two too.
Yeah, we talked about both Campbell being one of those teams, and that other game too, that last game of the season at Liberty too. That is not going to be a pushover game for Garrettsville Garfield, and you're looking at Crestview Brookfield and at Crestview at Brookfield at Liberty to end your season. You're going to need to get some wins there to get into the playoffs too, and you don't want to look at Liberty as that's a guaranteed win, because it's going to be a tough, rough and tough game too.
Especially coming after those two games. I mean, you're not going to exactly be 100%. I'm assuming.
Oh no, and I mean we know how much physical and physicality is going to be in that Crestview and that Brookfield game, and you're right, they might come into Liberty a little bit beat up. So I mean those games. Campbell Memorial and Liberty are both, I think, trap games too, especially like you said, for a team coming into a conference. They don't really know the opponents super well. Those are both trap games, and you just hope that coach has them prepared and ready, and you're looking for some good games out of those two.
Just to flip the coin, it also means that the other teams don't know Garfield too well either. I mean, they're going to have to do some serious scouting and serious film studies on those conference games. So it's kind of the even boat. They're both in the same boat. You just wonder, like I said, the mental toughness and the mental aptitude of Garfield to take every game seriously. Hopefully they do, because we'd hate to see a team that is as high expectations of Garfield kind of stub their toe on.
I mean, they're a team, like we said, that is pretty much all seniors. They're returning pretty much everything that came out last year. This is a team that, I mean, granted, let's see what they do in the season. They haven't played a game yet, but I mean, basing it off of last year, this is a team you can expect making deep playoff runs, maybe even state championship runs. This is a team that I think you're talking about very good on defense, very good on offense. If they step up on both those or even one of those and it becomes great on defense, you're talking a top five team, defense or offense in the area. You're looking at a team that can very easily make a deep playoff run and even make it into the state championship picture.
You look at the Division 5 map and the way teams break down, we might be talking about a collision course all season from South Range and Garfield, both Division 5, and that might be one of the games that we start to see formulating in the third week of the playoffs.
It seems like that's the matchup that we're looking for right now, because both teams solid on offense and defense. Both, if they can make that next step, you expect them to be able to make it to that state championship picture. But they got to get to each other first. And I don't know if they're going to meet later or earlier, but we know you're going to have to go through a gauntlet in Division 5 to come out of it.
Everyone knows Division 5 is thoroughly owned by Kirtland right now. I mean, it's not a surprise. It's not a secret.
Until somebody beats them too. Until somebody beats them, it's theirs. But we've had some teams try to knock on that door. Can the G-Men or South Range be that team? That we know South Range met them last year, couldn't get it done. But I mean, it's a team that, we want them here in Northeast Ohio. We want Kirtland. We want them for the YSN family. We want one of our teams to go there and take them out.
Kirtland, we'd love to have you on YSN. You're not here yet, so we're going to be rooting against you in those games.
Until you jump on board, we're sending our best shots at you until you jump on board.
Jump on board, and we'll love you like you're one of our own. Until
exactly. We'll be talking about you like we talk about Garrettsville, Garfield, and South Range. But until then, we're sending them out to try to get a dub.
All right, let's go from Garfield to last but certainly not least in the MVAC, talking about Newton Falls and the Tigers, another team probably on the upswing this year. And you've already said that you're pretty high on Newton Falls and what they could do this year. Talk about some of the reasons that you are so confident that Newton Falls will have a better season than last.
Well, they're a team too. They averaged 15 points per game last season. They were 1-6, but they're returning 8 starters on that offense from last year. So a lot of the team got a year of experience under their belt. Some big names that to talk about: Carter Rapsack, running back, sophomore running back; Nick Rapsack, the senior quarterback for them; and James Wissanot is the offensive lineman, senior offensive lineman for them. But I mean, you got a solid running back. You got the Rapsacks, both running back and quarterback. You got 2 very good pieces to build around. You got some offensive linemen to hold down the fort out in front. Some guys that they lost Luke Dickey, a wide receiver, as well as Nick Oyster, who was a very good athlete for them as well. But Nick Rapsack is really going to be the guy that we're looking at too, to take over the helm at quarterback and really start getting this offense in better position to score, as he's going to have a lot more opportunities than I think he did last year too. And I mean, having that trust factor too of having Carter right there at running back too. I mean, can you ask for a better situation? You're not going to trust anyone as you're going to trust your own blood, or more than your own blood, right there on the field.
Hopefully.
Yeah, you would hopefully think, but I mean, there's got to be a trust factor there. And you would think too, years of playing football with each other, even backyard, there's going to be a chemistry there, quarterback, running back wise, that we know what we need to do in this situation.
We've covered a lot of brothers and sisters in multiple sports, and one of the things that you always see is the ability to have nonverbal communication and the ability to kind of just understand what the other one's thinking without even having to say it, because they live with them, and that's a big advantage. Like, people don't talk, but that's a huge advantage, to be able to just give your brother or sister a look and they know exactly what you're going to do, and they can feed off that. You don't have to talk to them. You don't have to say anything, and it's harder for a defense to read.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, in that situation too, we talk about every team, and we talked about it with a volleyball coach earlier too. We talked about how chemistry and camaraderie, and how that's something that's not necessarily talked about when it comes down to game time, but it's such a huge aspect of every sport. And having that already instilled within them over years of growing up and living with each other, and just all that, you have that already instilled to where, like you said, it could be a look or just a glare at someone, and you know almost exactly what they're going to do because of that look.
Yeah, Newton Falls is a team that, in a community, I should say, very proud of their athletes. And, you know, I guarantee, even if last year was full capacity, even if they were struggling, which they were with a 1-6 record, that stadium would be full, and they would be cheering for their Tigers very loudly, very proudly. It's got to be such a good feeling to know that your community is coming back to physically cheer you on this year. Hopefully, knock on wood, that we do get full capacity in football. And I think that's going to be a big boost for the Tigers, one of the strongest communities we have on the network. And they're going to get that feeling and that sense of the community having their back. I don't want to be redundant, but you know, I talked myself right into that redundancy.
Yeah, and I mean, looking at Newton Falls defensively too, they're a team that allowed over 27 points per. It's a team though that really the other teams took advantage on turnovers that were created by Newton Falls, and any of those interceptions, any of those fumble recoveries. It always seemed like it put the opposing team in really good field position to put up the points on Newton Falls. So you're looking to take care of the ball a little bit more. I think if you're the Tigers, limit those turnovers. Don't go in. And I mean, it's hard too. And I think the COVID kind of messed that up too, when you don't get as many practices as we've hinted on before, and with that community not being able to support their team as hard. But I think having those practices now, you're not going to see as many fumbles. I'm sure Coach has conditioned these players not give up that ball, hold on to that ball a little bit tighter too when running with it. But I mean, you're looking at guys like Carter Miller, who looks to be, I think, a captain for this defense, linebacker for Newton Falls, as well as guys like Nick Brown, a defensive back, and then James Wissanot plays both O-line and D-line. But Carter Miller was a very good linebacker last year. He's coming back for his senior year. expect another great year out of the young man. Nick Brown is a defensive back. I expect to make some noise as well this year. You expect him to be breaking up some passes too, and trying to lock down a lot of the number ones. It's going to have a tall task in that MVAC gray, but I mean, definitely up for the challenge. And then, I mean, it's definitely a defense though that I think can make a stride and make improvements on. And they got some good pieces to build around, and some good captains and good leadership in good positions.
Yeah, and I think that defense is going to be the most improved, maybe I'm not bold statement, most improved defense in the MVAC when you talk about the points they gave up last year to the points they'll give up this year, because it's stocked with athletes that are really just playmakers. And I feel like when you look at the defenses, there are a lot of defenses in the MVAC that have another year of experience and were young last year. But I'm gonna make a solid bet that Newton Falls gives up the least amount of points compared to last year than the other teams, because a lot of their points given up were off of turnovers, and a year under their belt for the offense might decrease the amount of turnovers they give up and might put that defense in better situations to make stops.
Yeah, and then looking at their schedule, we'll go right into the non-conference wise. August 20th, home versus Waterloo. August 27th, home versus Jackson Milton. And September 3rd is at Mineral Ridge. So again, touring the other side of the MVAC and the Scarlet Tier division. Those 3 games right off the bat, we know Jackson Milton, what they were able to do last year. Mineral Ridge and Waterloo, though, too, are going to be 2 interesting games to start off the season.
Yeah, Waterloo's going to be coming into that game hungry because they didn't have the season they wanted to, and I know they're kind of rebuilding their not just their program but their bleachers and their some renovations to their stadium. They're going to be really hungry this year. That's not going to be a gimme game. Jackson Milton can throw like anyone's business. They love to throw the ball around, and we'll talk about them tomorrow along with Waterloo. But then you look at Mineral Ridge. Mineral Ridge is a team kind of trying to figure them out a little bit. They lost, their running attack from last year. What's their offense going to look like? I'm interested to see what Mineral Ridge looks like in week 3.
Find out tomorrow on the Scarlet Division YSN Live Running Point. But no, yeah, I absolutely agree with you too. And these are going to be 3 interesting games where they're all kind of toss-ups for me, too, with this Newton Falls, because we don't really know what we're getting out of Waterloo, Mineral Ridge, and heck, I'd even say Jackson Milton with some of the players that they lost. We don't know what these teams are, if they're taking a step up. Maybe they take a step back and they're focused on rebuilding right now. But I think you're looking at 3 very good competitive games to start the season for Newton Falls.
And how they come out of those 3 games is going to be a big factor in how confident they are going into that tough MVAC grade tier.
Because they know, the gauntlet starts, and it starts off right and early with a tough defensive schedule. In September 10th, champion at home against Newton Falls. And then you go at Garrettsville, Garfield 17th, at LeBray the 24th, at Brookfield October 1st, home versus Liberty, at Campbell Memorial, home versus Crestview. But I mean, conference play, champion, Garfield, LeBray, Brookfield, right off the gate. And I mean, that is no easy task to start conference play.
We talked about the scheduling committee rolling the red carpet out for Garfield. I think they pulled it back up for Newton Falls and said, you can walk on the sand.
Yeah, at Garfield, at LeBray, at Brookfield. Very tough schedules, and it goes back and forth. But yeah, tough break for Newton Falls this year to have all 3 of those games end up away.
That's a brutal first 4, and they're all on the road.
Yeah, I mean, a tough away schedule this year for the Tigers. But hey, I mean, like you said too, if they want to make that next step, this is the way to do it, and they're going to have to go into opponents' fields. Hear how loud the crowds at LeBray, Brookfield, Garfield, all of them are, and try to come out victorious. You figure, though, Newton Falls, I would say, like we said, we're not making win-loss predictions for the whole season, but I will say out of the MVAC, you need to probably come away with at least 3 victories out of those 7 games in the conference to be looking ahead for playoffs, I would think.
And it's going to be hard because by the time they get to those games that you consider to be maybe toss-up games, they've gone through it, and they're going to be a team that is worn and torn. And can they pick themselves up and really compete in those games that you think might be more 50-50?
Yeah, and I mean, it's going to be interesting to see. The COVID curtain, hopefully, knock on wood, is going to be pulled back this year too. So, I mean, the effect of crowds, which we've already seen too, and we've had a year to see how much a crowd affects sports in any capacity, high school, college, professional, how much the crowd plays an important factor. We talked about how great the crowd is with Struthers sports. It's pretty great with Newton Falls as well. So Newton Falls having a full capacity stadium for those home games is going to mean that much more for the Tigers.
I think the reason why their community is so good, teams like Newton Falls, they're not really geographically close to anybody. They're kind of in their own little place in the geographical YSN map. And it feels like that just makes the community even more tight-knit and more everyone go into that game instead of maybe you lose some to another game like in Canfield. You got some going to South Range, some going to Canfield. Some will take the train. You got no one. Newton Falls is the only show in town in Newton Falls. So that community really comes out for the Tigers.
Yeah, and they start early too. They bring their athletes up from a very young age and bring them up through the ranks, through middle school, all the way through high school. So Newton Falls is a town that breeds athletes from a young age, and they start them early and they groom them to be the best that they can be. And that's why Newton Falls is usually a team you can never count out year to year in any sport, because you know that they're always a year or two away, even if they are struggling, from getting right back into the picture.
Yeah, and when you look at that the last team that we talked about in the MVAC, and then that they are the last team to preview, and now you look at the conference as a whole, man, it is just, even if we were predicting, it'd be so hard. There's so many teams that you either think are going to be on the upswing and could throw monkey wrenches into things, or teams that are coming back so strong and were so strong last year. It's hard to kind of see what's going to happen in the MVAC. It's a very cloudy future in that tier when you talk about what teams might be front runners, what teams might be in the middle, what teams might be struggling. I don't think there's any teams that you can say with a stamp of approval they will be top, or a team that you could say with a stamp of approval they're going to struggle. It's very murky.
Yeah, and like we said too, I mentioned it earlier, when you include playoffs into the mix, every single one of these teams has won a game last year. I mean, some didn't play as many games as last year, but I mean, you look through it from Brookfield, who was 6-4, to Crestview 7-2, LeBray was 6-4, Champion 2-3, Campbell 2-5, Liberty 1-6, Newton Falls 1-6, and interestingly enough, Garrettsville Garfield, we'll mention them 9-1 too last season. So Garrettsville Garfield coming into this thing where a conference that beats up on each other constantly, I wouldn't expect to see any 9-1 or 8-2 records win this division. I think you're going to see more of a 7-3 record come out on top, because these teams are going to be beating up on each other. I think 8-2 you might see, but I don't think you're going to see many teams come and sweep this conference. I don't think there's one team in this thing that's going to sweep this conference, in the grade tier, that sweeps the conference this year.
That's interesting, because remember when we talked about the NE8 on Tuesday, one of the points was these teams are spread out in divisions. And you could see multiple teams make the playoffs because they're spread out. Different story in the MVAC. They're all pretty much scooped in the same position. And you could see teams straight up knock other teams out of playoff spots with conference games.
Late in games, too. You might see half of the MVAC drop in a week. Half of the MVAC grade tier drop in a singular week out of playoff contention, or hopes get diminished very quickly. And that's just because all these teams we expect to be beating up on each other. It's not a 2 or a 3 team show here. It's more like everyone bring their best guys and we'll just see who comes out on top right now. And I mean, like we said, from top to bottom, even the teams that did struggle last year, your Liberties and your Newton Falls that were 1-6, another factor to take into effect, they only played 7 games last year when everyone else played 10. So, I mean, playing deeper too, some teams play deeper into the playoffs. I mean, we know how much having that extra game experience and sometimes extra rest and, not as many injuries too. It'll be interesting too, because there's a whole other wrench of COVID that's been thrown into the mix that throws everything else out of whack. So it will definitely be a very fun season to watch for the MVAC.
The MVAC feels like you're watching Shootout at the OK Corral, where you just walk into the saloon and you look around and everyone's got something that they could hurt you with, and you're like, I think a lot of people are going to get hurt.
Yeah. And that's it too. I mean, the winner of the MVAC will truly deserve to be in the playoffs, because you're going to go through a gauntlet.
That's very true. Whoever wins that conference is going to earn it thoroughly. Not saying that the other conferences won't. It's just like when you look and you win that conference and you're going to earn a playoff spot because you're playing mostly teams in your own division.
I mean, you're looking too. I mean, if we include Garrettsville, Garfield too, I know they weren't in there last year, but throw them in to the mix. Out of those 8 teams, I think you're looking at 5 too that make it without the restrictions of COVID and everybody makes the playoffs. You might be legitimately looking in a 16-team playoff last year. I think all 5 of them do make it too. Correct me if I'm wrong, Anthony, but I think all 5 of them do make it if they were in the MVAC last year and it's a 16-team playoff format.
I think that's a solid point.
And I think they do. And I mean, that goes to show how good and how talented this is. And it's not a knock against other conferences at all. It just happened to be what it is. It is what it is. And it just turned out that there's very talented players at these schools in this conference right now. And lucky for us to have it, lucky for you guys to be able to watch it. And I mean, there's so many good matchups too this year with the MVAC.
It is what it is. Final words from the MVAC preview as we wrap up the grade tier today. We'll take a quick timeout and come back for the last half an hour Running Point. Don't go anywhere on ysnlive.com.
At Hubbard Chevrolet, Hubbard can help you get the financing you need regardless of your situation. I'm Tony Page, and I've helped thousands of customers in Northeast Ohio and Western Pennsylvania buy a vehicle. Bad credit, no problem. I can get you approved for a low-interest loan and maybe even a low-payment lease on a new car at the #1 Chevy dealership in Trumbull County for 3 years in a row. Visit HubbardChevy.com to get pre-approved or come see me, Tony Page, to get a new vehicle today. Remember, folks, Hubbard can help.
When looking for home design inspiration, don't just be inspired, be Baird inspired. Whether new or remodeling, Baird Brothers has the latest trends like shiplap to refresh your home. Go from inspiration to installation with our wide selection of in-stock American hardwoods. From the rustic charm of antique oak to the warmth of traditional cherry, Baird Brothers has what you need to make your home inspiring. Baird Brothers, our family's heritage, your family's home.
When Mother Nature starts flexing her muscles, make sure you're prepared for comfort. For over a decade, NDC Heating and Cooling has been sending their team of experienced, certified, and knowledgeable technicians to service the area. NDC services all makes and models and carries a wide selection of furnaces, air conditioners, and indoor air quality products. To schedule an appointment, call 330-457-2562. That's 330-457-2562. For all your residential and commercial heating and cooling needs in Columbiana or Mahoning counties, call NDC Heating and Cooling in New Waterford, Ohio, where our thermostat is always set on quality.
Welcome back to Running Point, a Thursday edition on ysnlive.com, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. Anthony Hartwig with you alongside Ty Bartell. And Ty, it's officially time for the NFL preseason to start. The Hall of Fame game tonight between the Steelers and the Cowboys. Last Sunday was the last Sunday without football until February. How excited are you for this NFL season?
I'm excited for the NFL season. I'm excited for the high school season. I'm excited for the college season. I'm excited for everything. And like I said, I mean, knock on wood again, hopefully everything goes off without a hitch. And I mean, that's the part I think I'm most excited for, is seeing everything back, especially in the college and the high school ranks, those fans being back and so supportive too. And I know how loud Kansas City gets, and I know how loud the professional stadiums get, but there's that charm about the college and especially the high school teams and the fans and the communities that eat, sleep, and breathe those teams, and you see it decorated all over their house and their cars and everything. There's just some unique charm to the high school game and the college game, but especially the high school game, football wise, that doesn't really compete with the NFL doesn't really compete with that you get out of the high school scene.
You know what the charm is? It's the marching bands. I mean, I know they have them in college and I get it, but there's something about a high school marching band that just, oh man, it's just
playing
like
the fight song or their fight song. It's Yeah, there's a unique charm, and it's something that that kind of just like draws us all together and unifies us all, because we all remember being in high school. We all remember Friday nights. We all remember the marching band, or that we all been to a football game. Most of us have a high school football game at least once, and we've experienced it. And it's something that kind of connects all of us together. And I think that's where kind of the charm of high school football comes into play.
Ty, do you ever look at a student section while you're at a football game on Friday and think, did I really act like that when I was in high school?
Oh yeah, all the time. I know I acted like that. I look into the student section and I tell them too. I tell all the students that I say too, go hard with it, have fun. Obviously within reason. Don't be an idiot. Obviously, it's another one of my things. Don't be an idiot, but go hard, have fun too, especially at the high school ranks, and especially if COVID's off. I mean, oh my God, can you imagine these students too? These student sections that have been so restricted with COVID, this how loud and excited they're going to be just to have football back, and how packed these student sections are. I mean, these kids had nothing to do for practically a year. These Friday nights are going to be so fun now.
And then there are kids in the student section that have like kind of roles. There's a hype man. There's the guy that, kind of, what was your role in the student section in high school?
To just be loud. That was my role. I mean, you had your hype man. But I mean, the hype man, you always have to get somebody to get everyone else to cheer, and someone needs to be loud and over here heard throughout the entire crowd. And that was kind of my role. You kind of got to point to me and get me to get everyone to start screaming and yelling. But yeah, that was.
What have been some of the most creative student section themes that you've seen in your time, whether it be when you were a student or covering games? Because they're starting to get really creative, and we're starting to see even them get on social media and create student section accounts and start to really plan what they're going to do come Friday nights. It's a marvelous evolution in student sections from when I was in school, when you just kind of showed up Friday at 4:30, made a quick theme plan, and then went to the game. There was no, talking about it all week. What's the theme going to be? Getting on Twitter and doing surveys. They take it seriously now, what the theme's going to be. So what's been some of the ones that you've seen?
Honestly, my favorite theme out of any of them, and I've seen a few schools do it basically, and it's a simple theme, as simple as can be. It's just a Halloween theme for an October game, and just allowing the students to be creative and get in their groups and form. Some might dress up as Avengers, some might dress up as whatever. I know we did the whole Avengers scene for our Halloween thing, but that was so cool. Anytime I've been to one of those Halloween games where they just let the kids wear a costume and dress up, and these kids and students can coordinate how they want to dress up, and some are certain groups, some are like prison inmates or whatever, they dress up as certain things. And I think it's so cool to see the creativity of these kids and what they could come up with costume wise, and that's one of my favorite things.
I want to hear in the comments are live. What are some of the student section themes that you've liked over the years? And I know we got a lot of fans out there that have seen some crazy things. Open up the question though. You did the Avengers. What Avenger were you?
Oh, easy. Thor.
You were
I
Thor?
took Thor all the way on that one. They asked me to do it too, and I mean, I think it was just natural. I was tall and blonde, and they were like, "Yeah, Ty."
Did you have the locks, or did you have to get a wig? Because
I had to get a wig. I got an actual too. I remember too, because I went hard on this. I did not mess around when they said I was going to be Thor. I went to that actual Halloween shop out in Boardman, and I think I bought a hair wig that was literally designed to look like Chris Hemsworth. Like, it had his picture on it. Like, I bought Chris Hemsworth's like an actual wig that was supposed to be Chris Hemsworth hair. Like, I took it. I bought Mjolnir. I got the hammer. I went hard with it too, and we won. We won best costume too for the school. The Avengers did. So we ended up taking it.
Did you also work on an Australian accent?
I didn't get a chance to work on the Australian accent. It was a day before. If I had a week of preparation time, I might have gotten a class snuck in there. So
is Thor the favorite Avenger though, or was that this one that you thought you could pull off the best?
Thor is one of my favorite Avengers, I'd say easily. But I think it was just like I said, the fact that I was blonde and tall, and they were like, Ty has to be Thor. But I mean, other than that, yeah, I think it was just kind of I didn't really have a choice of anything else. They pretty much had to put me in that role, and I like Thor too, so it worked out for the best.
The mightiest Avenger.
Yeah, exactly.
When I see a theme, one of the ones that I really like to see is when they make like a ESPN mock booth, and they have guys dress up as like sportscasters.
That's
Someone-
hilarious.
One school started it. Now everyone seems to do it once a year, but it's great to see. Like they'll have like a table in the bleachers with the ESPN banner over it, and then they'll just like have two guys who I feel bad for because they have to be in a suit and tie in that gym. Not fun. They're probably over there with a church fan like. But no, that's creative. I really. I'm a sucker for this, like the school color themes. Like the one time a team went to a state championship or a state semifinal, whatever, and their theme was like blackout. And I was like, if you're gonna wear a collar, like let's wear our school colors for a state championship and show everybody what our, it just didn't make much sense to do it as a blackout for a state semifinal game. Like, I'm a sucker for the school colors a little bit.
I was about to say I am a fan of that, the all outs as far as the color scheme is concerned when it does coordinate with the color. But that's another theme I am a fan of. Like when you see the teams like if the red outs or the white outs or the green outs.
The white outs get creepy. Like white out is like, oh, it's almost more intimidating than a blackout.
It is too, because I mean it catches your eye. It's distracting. We're like black when it's a blackout. I feel like it's at least peripheral wise. It kind of helps you focus in and hone in more. When you got this bright white or like a neon on the sides of your peripherals, it can really mess with some players too, especially if you're just constantly seeing it out both sides of your eyes.
By the way, Middle Ridge student section, got to give them a shout out because they have one of the golden megaphone banners on their student section that their WHSA gives out. So they were recognized as one of the best, not just in the area, but in the state for all they do. So if you're a Middle Ridge student and you're out there, man, I am so excited to get you back pumped. You're going to be in Middle Ridge for the Mooney games, so probably not going to see the Middle Ridge students, but the Middle Ridge students are some of the best in the area. So you got to hold up that tradition because it's been a year off. So you can't have that golden megaphone banner and not bring it, Middle Ridge. I'm throwing the gauntlet down to you.
Yeah, and I mean, we have so many great student sections this year, and I hope to see a lot of people get out there and really support these schools after a tough year that they had last year. Get out there, support these schools, support these kids, and just support these communities all around too. And that just starts with just getting the tickets to high school sports and high school football. But go out there, eat local, shop local too. Go to the mom and pop shops before or even after the game and grab some food or grab a drink too.
You know what I always thought that would be funny as a student section theme, just to like psych the other team out. Where are the other team's colors?
Do what DJ did. DJ did the Gatorade thing. He drank the color of Gatorade that his opponents wore because he did it as like a tribal thing of drinking the blood of his opponent. So that's like, I don't know where DJ got that one from. That was one of the funniest things I've heard DJ say. But that's very similar too. You could too. I mean,
psych out the team, wear the other team's color, and they don't know what's going on.
It either psych them out or they just think everybody's rooting for us. That's how I'd immediately take
it. Them out because the teams that are in their color are booing them.
Yeah, it could. Yeah, you're right.
Like, what the heck? They're booing them.
But you got to sit on the away side. They go, they dress up, and they go to the away side and then boo. That's how you really, half of them on the away, half of them on the home side, and they're just all booing. It's like that'd be it. That'd be the way you have to do it.
You run into those matchups where they're the same colors, and where the MVAC, like Garfield and Kresge, they're both black and yellow. Then what do you do? You know, you're kind of stuck in that. Oh man! But if you're opposite colors, I mean, we used to do that at South Range. We'd wear orange and black, not to a game, but it'd be as part of the Spirit Week to be like, I think it was called Jinx Day, where you would wear the other team's colors.
That's awesome.
That's one of the only reasons I bought a Bengals jersey. For
just to have it for. That's awesome.
Yeah, I had a Chad Johnson jersey, and the only time I wore it was Jinx Day to jinx out the Tigers, because you wear it other times and you look like you're supporting the Tigers at South Range.
Yeah,
that was taken very seriously when I was in high school. Not as much now. It was still very, but not in the same conference. Not as heated, but we're gonna see that week one. We already talked about it when we talked about the NE8 on Tuesday. We'll probably talk about it a little bit more when we talk about the MVAC Scarlet Tier tomorrow.
Oh, most likely too, because I mean we're probably going to have a little bit to say about Springfield too, as we expect them to make another deep run with Bo Brungard as long as he's there. You don't know Bo, right?
Bo
So,
knows.
yeah, Bo knows, but you might not know Bo, but Bo knows. But yeah, we'll talk obviously more on the Scarlet Tier tomorrow. 8 more teams to look at MVAC wise as part of the whole 16 team conference that they now have. Another 8 teams that are going to be fun to look at. Another 8 teams. Group of teams that are going to be young, looking to make that next step. A few teams that are already making that step, looking to complete that step with a ring or some hardware back in that school. So a lot to talk about MVAC football and try to finish up our previews before we get into the week 1 action there, August 20th, 19th and 20th. August 19th, our opening day.
And Coach Seidel, tomorrow's your time. We better hear from you. We better hear from you.
I had Coach messaging me too during the show too, so I'll have to make a guest appearance.
I know. It's your time. I'll send you a link. You better get on because it's your time. It's your tier's time. And
yeah, I feel kind of wrong previewing the Sebring football Trojans when we have the head coach working for YSN for us.
We're under so much pressure. We're gonna be like, okay,
yeah. I'm gonna pronounce one name wrong, and then he's gonna get me on it.
There go the comments.
Yep. He's gonna bring the whole Sebring faithful for me. Go easy on me, though. Go easy on me.
Look at Matt. I'd be happy to pop.
Look at a true champ.
You know, we're gonna say it. We're gonna say tomorrow we'll have Matt Seidel join us a little bit for the previews. We do have 2 guests tomorrow. Gonna talk more volleyball with McDonald head coach Mike Klockner at 1:00, and after him, Mackenzie Firth from United Volleyball joining us at 1:30. But Matt Seidel might come on maybe the first hour, talk about the MVAC, half of the MVAC Scarlet Tier. Now, here's the question though: do we let him on to preview Sebring?
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting question. We'll have to see, because we can't let him go too hard on Sebring, and we didn't go hard on anybody else. We're going to have to keep him in check if we let him talk about Sebring too much, because I've been on the grand tour of all of Sebring, and I know how passionate Coach can get with Sebring. So
I have the controls. I can just boot him off if he ever
kick him off if he starts talking Sebring. You'll have the whole Sebring faithful come to your house, though. I don't know if that's the best course of action. He'll get all the Sebring on you.
No one knows where I live. It's okay.
But no, I think that'll be great too, just to get the mind of Coach Seidel and someone who faces these teams year to year, and how he kind of prepares, how he looks at these teams. How does he prepare facing a team such as a Springfield that's been to the state championship the last 2 years? I think there's a lot of great questions and a lot of good insight too that we're going to be able to see, and for the viewers to really get to learn a little bit more about Coach Seidel and kind of how these coaches in the MVAC are preparing to face these really tough schedules.
Yeah, and when you look at the MVAC Scarlet Tier, it's almost just like the gray tier. So many really good programs that might be taking steps up.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, there's teams that are going to be tough this year, like I said, and there's going to be teams that I think are going to be making a step up too. One thing too that Coach Seidel and I have talked about too, and he even mentioned it today. And what if there was that change, that one sleight of hand, if you could transfer one team over to the next? And he talked about switching Newton Falls and Springfield in the gray division. And Newton Falls in the thing. Of course, you want Springfield, but imagine if Springfield was thrown into that gray division tiers mix of things. I mean, you just add that game into that schedule on top of having to play for a lot of these teams: Brookfield, Crestview, Champion, Garrettsville. I mean, you add Springfield into that mix, and it's almost too much. But there's a lot of teams too in that Scarlet Division, Anthony, that they might give Springfield a little bit of a run for their money. And I mean, we already know McDonald, Western Reserve are 2 big ones that we always have to mention year to year, but there's some other teams that might surprise you in that Scarlet Tier.
Yeah, we're going to talk all about them tomorrow. And now, breaking news, we're going to be joined by Matt Seidel for a little bit. We're happy to have that tomorrow. A nice, fun Friday on Running Point, but we still have to close this show out. today's the first day of OHSAA golf. The golf athletes are the first teams to open up the OHSAA season. As we've seen a lot of updates on the golfers up on Twitter, which means tomorrow, Ty, we're going to be able to report live scores for the first time on Running Point.
Thank God we are getting back into the full swing of thing for sports. As much as don't get me wrong, as much as I love baseball and everything, this tail end of the year too, when baseball season ends, is one of the worst times for sports at the high school level. When baseball season ends, especially Bob Seton Park and everything, and we're left in this not much longer, anybody. We're going to be able to start reporting scores again back into the high school sports swing of things. We're going to start talking more sports again at the high school.
I like that too. Swing of things. It's a good little segue right into golf.
Yep, exactly. We're right back into it. So excited to be talking high school sports again. And talking live scores and updates from high school sports and not just what happened last year.
Yeah, and with golf, I mean, one of the things we love is that every week we get to talk to Brian Tonar, and 8 teams call Mill Creek Park their home. So there are 8 teams that he is very familiar with, and he gets to bring a lot of expert knowledge on to those teams, and then everyone else, golf, and then I believe soccer, some soccer teams starting next Friday with the Friday night football initiative from the OHSAA start games the Friday before high school football.
And I think that's great too, to bring attention to soccer too. And I mean, hey, week before football season starts, high school season starts, you're already going to be planning on being somewhere Friday nights anyway. Week before, go out and catch a soccer game too. I mean, especially if you haven't seen one around the area, take a look. We had Coach Bailey on the other day too, talked with him for over an hour about the sport. And there's some great teams and some great coaches and great athletes in the area. So be sure to go out there and check out a game too. I mean, you said next Friday, right? Yeah, next Friday.
Next Friday, Mike Bailey and his Quaker girls team will go to United next Friday. They'll open the season there.
So yeah, take a look too, see what games are coming around you. And I mean, Friday before football, go out there and support these schools and support these kids, and go catch a football game before our football starts the week prior, or the week after, I should say.
The U.S. women did win bronze, so they were able to bounce back from their loss to Canada. By the way, if you were wondering on how our Olympic softball team, soccer team was doing, once again, it's Thursday. Boop. So they won bronze, and we saw the beach volleyball team of April Ross and Alex Kleinman get to the gold medal match yesterday. Olympics are starting to wind down, as Saturday is the last day, and one of the great things is you can watch all the prime time on our partners affiliate WFMJ, and they do a great Olympic preview show at 7:30 with Aaron Simonek as well.
Yeah, and I mean, the Olympics have been really good this year, too, for the U.S. I mean, taking another medal, too. We've been finishing in the top 3 in so many different events. So coming out strong again has the U.S. this Olympics. And, I mean, been a little bit crazy over there in Tokyo, but Saturday winding things down and winding out of it. And now, as we got to remember, too, we're a year off schedule, so we got to look right to the Winter Olympics coming up in a few months.
You know what really surprised me is how strong Japan is at skateboarding. They've won a lot of skateboarding gold medals already. I think they've won most. I didn't know the Japanese were strong in the skateboarding community. I was blown away when I heard that last night.
And it could also be a culture shift too, and we've seen that too in sports, and it happens in other countries other than just America, and we've seen it too with soccer and volleyball, and we talked about it yesterday and today, and how these sports are starting to elevate a little bit more and starting to gain a lot of popularity within America. Soccer, we know, is world renowned, but here in America, at least, we know the women's team was, but the men's team starting to garner national recognition. Volleyball as a sport, women high school is carrying it to this point. Men's are starting to get high school teams now. And we're starting to see that evolve now. And it might just be that situation there in Japan too, because I didn't know about skateboarding being a huge thing over, but it could just be one of those culture shifts where kids are getting into it.
And I think one of the reasons why it was so surprising, and this just goes into your your preconceived notions of a certain culture that might not be exactly right. But when you think of Japanese culture, you think of like so structured, so respectful, always bow to your elderly. And when you think of like the skateboarding culture, it's almost like rebellious. You're skating on the street when you're not supposed to. A lot of skateboarders will say if you haven't been arrested once as a skateboarder, you're not doing your job, because you're supposed to be, skating in public and everything. So it kind of like it's those two things that go opposites to each other. So you didn't really expect Japan to be like the skateboarding powerhouse, but here they are with a lot of skateboarding medals. And hey, more power to you. I watch skateboarding and I just go, I can't even fathom doing that.
I can't even fathom doing it as well either. And I mean, honestly, it's nice to see, though. It's nice to see these other countries, and it's nice to see our country, though, too, especially take on these other sports, too, and starting to get an interest, too, and open up the ideas to their cultures of these other sports that are wildly popular other places, too, and other events that garner national attention elsewhere. And I think it's great, too, because it opens up the doors to allow more phenomenal athletes of any sport into the door that we might not have even known about or heard about had that culture shift not happened.
We'll take our last timeout of the day, come back and wrap this episode of Running Point up next on ysnlive.com.
At Greenwood Chevrolet, shop with confidence knowing we're ready to go the extra mile for you. With the largest selection of used vehicles in the Valley, backed by the Greenwood Advantage Warranty. Every one of our vehicles has undergone our own 126-point inspection, so it passes the most important inspection, yours. No other dealership has the extra inventory, gives you extra for your trade, and goes the extra mile for you. Only at Greenwood Chevrolet.
Welcome back to Running Point on ysnlive.com. Anthony Hartwig alongside Ty Bartell. Brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austintown. Glad to hear from them one last time before the show wraps up. They go the extra mile for you, as you heard in their advertisements. Tomorrow on the show, we will preview the MVAC Scarlet Tier. Matt Seidel will be joining us to give us a inside look on that conference. We'll also be talking to a McDonald volleyball coach, Mike Klockner, at 1 o'clock about his team. And then we'll be talking to Mackenzie Firth, head coach of the United Eagles volleyball team. 2 new coaches taking over programs on the program tomorrow, so don't miss that. Anthony Hartwig, Ty Bartell, thank you so much for joining me. Power Hour coming up next on ysnlive.com from 3 to 4, and they'll get you squared up for the rest of your Thursday evening, and we will be out of here. Thank you so much for joining us on Running Point.